Thank you, Vickie. Hang on, can you hear me? Yeah, good stuff. Listen, thank you ever so much for this is the third conference we've done now. Massive thanks to Vickie. Huge thanks to this place in terms of allowing us to use it today. Hopefully it won't get too warm, but I think it might well do. I'm Chief Exec of City Council. Really pleased. Vickie always says, Matt, can you come and say a few words? I've got a few notes here, but I'll probably just go off script anyway, so just to give a few key messages. But for me, you know, Vickie and I have actually just been on a leadership programme last few months really, and actually it's about collaborative leadership. All of you have a role to play around leadership, around tackling this agenda around domestic abuse, tackling women and tackling violence against women and girls is absolutely key. I would say in the last few months, I've personally had to report a few cases to the police. I'm really pleased to say the police response was fantastic. Arrests made, now going to court. In the council, we have pushed and pushed and pushed mandatory training around this topic for all of our staff. I've got 92% of staff who have done the course. That's not good enough. I still need that 8%. So we all have a role to play, keep putting that message around how we can work and tackle these agendas and issues and start talking about the issues and challenges. 3,000, Vickie says that these stats, but 3,000 every day that there is an impact around women and girls subject to violence. It could be emotional, physical, financial, whatever, but for 3,000 every day. Unfortunately, some of that is happening in Peterborough. I don't know if some of you have seen the case report which came out literally 5 or 6 days ago. Read it. Be inquisitive, challenge. I've already had briefings from the police of what's happening in the patch. I'm pleased to say there's a huge amount of really good work, collaborative work going on right across the city and wider. But read it and then think, are we doing everything that we can to tackle it? I've got housing colleagues here. Are we doing enough to tackle support around housing and accommodation? They're doing some great stuff. I've seen the numbers coming down around vulnerable people, temporary accommodation, etc. They're working wonders. Our public health teams are here today, the voluntary community sector, police, health colleagues. But ask the question, are we all doing enough to share that intelligence, to share that information where they've got concerns? And if you're still not happy, challenge it and keep on challenging it in my view. So there are lots of things that we need to do, but I am hugely proud of Vickie and the team, what they do in Peterborough. We've now got a team focused just on Peterborough, which I think is working wonders. It's going to change again, she knows that, probably in 2 or 3 years' time, because we've got local government reorganisation, and they're going to change the footprint and the maps. And even Vickie said, crikey, you spent lots of meetings working out where to draw the lines. We haven't finished it yet, but it will change. And we just got to be open to that level of change. The health system is going through a huge amount of change at the moment. We have to be open to that. But don't let it take your eye off the ball of how we tackle these issues in terms of tackling abuse, tackling discrimination, tackling physical abuse going on in our city. And I'll say all of you and your teams and the public have an eyes and ears role across the city. And I would probably say I see stuff across the city every day. And you think, that just doesn't look quite right, and I will report it in, I will tackle it. And there are still issues that we see time and time again. A lot of it is invisible. A lot of it is shifted online. And I know that's a really tricky area for police and other colleagues, how do we tackle that? But really be eyes open and start challenging even more. Are we doing enough to tackle these agendas? Today you're going to hear from loads of different people, practitioners, etc., around what's happening. Challenge them. Be inquisitive, reflect on what you've heard, and you think, am I personally doing enough? I've signed up as an ambassador with the white ribbon. Really important to push that agenda. Have all of you signed up in the ring around ambassadors, champions? If you haven't, I'm sure Vickie will point in the right direction. So all I'm saying is I hope you enjoy the day today. It's a really important agenda. It's taken very seriously by me, by the politicians, by all of my team. I'm regularly involved in discussions around this sort of topic with multi-agency partners, goal meetings, etc. But rest assured, I think you're doing a fantastic job. Please keep going, but also be curious and keep challenging yourselves. I think I'll hand over to Vickie. Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is our third conference in Peterborough. We also had 2 housing days where we invited everyone, and if you organise these things, you have the joy of not having to speak. But unfortunately Rob can't be with us today, so you've got me. It feels like a party that I've invited all my favourite people from Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. It's awesome. And if I don't recognise you, I'm really sorry, it's because my facial recognition is dreadful, and I usually see so many people on Teams, so don't be afraid to go, it's me. That's me. We'll be hearing some stories from survivors. We'll be hearing survivors' voices. Personally, I think that survivors are the most important people. We need to be looking to you. You need to be at the top, and we should be serving the people that are being subjected to abuse. And I think that's really, really important that we listen. But please keep yourself safe. So there'll be some really difficult topics. I've got a feeling we all might need a tissue at some point during the day, not just to wipe the sweat away. We have, as Matt said, we've now got an interview service just in Peterborough City Council, so anyone can contact them. We've got duty, just wave. They're the most amazing ladies and they're very shy. I love them very much. So, I've got a list of things to go through. Fire exits are clearly marked and there is no test planned today. Toilets in the corridor. Coffee will be served from both sides of the kitchen hatches at the breaks, so help yourselves. If you do need to rinse your cup, can you do it in the ladies or the gentlemen's toilets, please? There isn't room in the kitchen. There are bins around for your recycling. If you need a bottle of water, there's some in reception. It's quite cool in there as well. The Wi-Fi code's also in reception. Also, you've all got a pen, because our website has all the information you'd ever possibly want to know. If you do want to take a few extra for staff back at your organisations, you're more than welcome. What else? We've got a first aider on site. We've got church staff with lanyards, so if you need anything, please approach them. At lunchtime, Peterborough Women's Aid AGM is going to be in the lounge at the bottom of the corridor. We're also going to come back from lunch at 1:20, so that was done just after I'd got them printed. Sit wherever you like over lunch, so that you can sit in the garden, you can take the chairs out to the garden, but please can you bring them back in afterwards? And I think that might be everything. Awesome. So, first up on the agenda is Christine Graham. So Christine's from the church, they've just got their restored accreditation, she's going to tell us all about it. They really, really carefully, she said, would you do some training for us? And I went, yeah. I went, how big's that church? She said, oh, it's about the size. And I went, oh, it sounds just the right size for a conference. Can we have it there? And I haven't got any money. And she went, yeah, if you want. So if anyone's got any other venues, so we had the mosque last year with the same kindness and generosity. So if anyone else is aware of any other institutions that we can do our conference from, that'd be marvellous. So I'm going to hand over to you, Christine. Apparently you have to move forward with that.
Yeah, thanks. Before I introduce myself properly, just to add to what Vickie said, that the generosity of the donation for having the event here today has allowed us to have a budget to run our restored Beacon Church. So you being here today means that we are going to be able to directly support survivors. So that's great. You're really welcome here in our building today. I'm Christine Graham, I'm a safeguarding trustee, and I really want to welcome you on behalf of the trustees of the church and our church family. It's great to have people here. Some people may recognise me. A long time ago, I was community safety manager at Peterborough City Council and managed all aspects of community safety. But for about the last 12, 15 years, I've been working with a colleague, a gentleman some of you will also know, and we chair and author domestic homicide reviews. So I've done about 70 domestic homicide reviews around the country, and that's been a real privilege. It's been frustrating, I'll be honest with you, sometimes, but it's been a real privilege that survivors who have been, in relationships, but also families of victims of homicide, invite us into their lives at the most distressing time and tell us things about their family they've never told anybody before. And I have to hold on to the fact that they do some good. It's slow, I'll be honest, but I can see for individual organisations, for individual families, the reviews have made a difference. And my colleague and I are in the process of winding down to retirement, so what was I going to do to fill my time? Well, I now have this project to fill my time. So what is Restored? Who are Restored? Restored's a Christian charity whose aim is changing the story for survivors of domestic abuse. And I've been volunteering with them and working as a freelance trainer with them for the last few years. And we do that by speaking up, by equipping the church and supporting survivors. So we do a lot of training, some in person but mostly online, and we have a survivors network of over 750 women who can join that network. They take as much or as little they want from it. There's a Facebook group, there's the opportunity to do recovery groups, we issue blogs every week, and this week we have our second survivors retreat where a number of women will go away together for the weekend. So I've been working with them for some time, and one of the questions that people sometimes ask is, well, why would the church get involved around domestic abuse? And we know that in Christian churches today, 1 in 4 people will be experiencing or will have experienced domestic abuse at some point. And that is scary. I'll tell you, when I stand up here on a Sunday morning and this church room is as full as this, if not more full, with people who have been my family for 4 decades, and I look out and think, 1 in 4 of you is experiencing or has experienced domestic abuse. I've got goosebumps now, just want to say it to you again now. And we know that those who have experienced an abusive act, 57.4% of women had experienced domestic abuse and 16% of men had experienced abuse. Half of those women who told that survey that they were experiencing domestic abuse have been experiencing it for 10 years, and most of them will never have told anybody, least of all their church. And why do they not tell their church? Because they're ashamed. The barriers are the same as for any survivor, but in some ways they are different. The church can be guilty of holding too tightly to the Christian principle of marriage. So you married for life, therefore you stay. We don't believe that. We believe that God doesn't want men and women in abusive relationships to stay in those. But for men and women who are in those relationships, it is really hard to leave. And what I'm always saying to them when I speak to them is, you are not breaking your marriage vow by divorcing. Your marriage vows were broken when your partner, your husband, your wife, abused you. I've heard some horrendous stories from women who have told their church what they're experiencing. They've been told to go home and pray more. They have been asked what they've done that's led their husband, their wife to treat them like that. And what as Restored we want to do is to change that in churches. It is a huge task. I couldn't even estimate how many churches there are in this country, but it's like an elephant, we'll just eat it, 1 bite at a time. And we want to make a difference for those people. So what is a beacon church? Well, a beacon church is part of a network, at this point a fairly small network, but we trust that it will grow. And what a beacon church is saying is that we seek to provide a safe refuge for survivors so that we can journey with them on their path to recovery and demonstrate God's deep love for them. And that we would want people to know that they can tell us what's happening. So why at Bretton did we want to become a beacon church, other than the fact I was retiring and had nothing to fill my time? We acknowledge as a church family that there are people in our family who are experiencing abuse or have experienced, and we're grateful for those who have already disclosed to us. We have a lot of people through our church in a week. Obviously we have people here on a Sunday, but we have our Bretton lounge on a Tuesday and a Thursday morning. Drop in 10 till 12, free coffee, free cakes, homemade cakes, soup in the winter. If you're working with clients who just need a safe place where they can meet people and, you know, just send them along. We have different organisations who will come and speak to the people who are here. So if as an organisation you need an opportunity to engage with the community, get in touch with us. You know, we have Wood Green come in, we have health people come. We also now have a vaccination service every Wednesday here. So people are coming here to have their vaccinations across a whole range. And we know that these people come here because they feel safe. And they know that there's somebody who they can talk to. And that, you know, we will be there for them. And we want to be able to offer a place for survivors of domestic abuse, both men and women, here. And we are offering our services to those of the Christian faith, to those of other faiths, and to those of no faith at all. It is of no consequence to us. We're not looking to take over from the wonderful services that you're already offering. What we're looking to do is to walk with people and to journey with them, and maybe sometimes the thought of going to housing or even going to Women's Aid might seem scary, but if they can go with somebody from here who they know, then we can support them into accessing services. And so we really want to work in partnership with what you're all doing. If you want to, I'm coordinating the work here. If you want to meet up and have a chat about how we can work together, what I might need to know about your service, just grab me today and we can arrange to do that, or you can email me later. So what are we actually offering? One of the things that for me was really important when we set about starting this service is that my experience is that for those who have experienced domestic abuse, they have been let down. They've been let down by those who are supposed to love them. But with the greatest respect to every one of you in the room, they've probably been let down by services too. And I have a lady called Emma who is the Restored Beacon Church coordinator at Restored, tells a story of how she started a drop-in in her church in London. And after 7 months, a lady came. And she said, "Oh, how did you find out about us?" And she said, "I've known you were here all the time." So she said, "Oh, well, I'm pleased you feel able to come." She said, "Every week for the last 7 months, I have come and stood outside because I wanted to make sure that you were going to be here every week. And that this wasn't a one-off, you know, fly in the pan, they're going to do this for a couple of weeks and then they'll disappear." So for me, it's really important that what we offer, we can sustain. And we are doing this entirely with volunteers, as most of you will be doing. So we're running a what's called Ask for Dorothy or Ask for Daniel service, which sounds very familiar to most people. What we know is that if you've been in this church for 2 weeks, 20 months or 20 years, and you want to disclose, it's going to be really hard to go up to somebody after a Sunday service and say, "Oh, can I just talk to somebody about domestic abuse?" Because you don't know who might hear, you know, you don't know how they might respond. So we have a number 9 volunteers who are trained, and so anybody in the building at any time, but particularly on a Sunday, can ask somebody who's on duty on a Sunday, "Can I speak to Dorothy? Can I speak to Daniel?" And they will then fetch the appropriate person, and we will talk to them then about how we can support them. If when you go to the toilets, you'll see that we've got posters in the toilets with information for people, but we are also offering one-to-one support. All our volunteers have been trained, as Vickie said. We have extensive training. They've done 4 days training in order to provide this support. 3 days training from Restored, and then Vickie came and spent an evening with us talking about local services and how we become part of those. And as I say, we will journey with men and women who are experiencing domestic abuse. And we really look forward to working with you. I need to find Jenny and Idva today because we spoke on the phone yesterday. Hi Jenny, about a lady who's looking to be supported by us. So, hopefully we will get to know each other better. But as I finish, I just really want to say some thank yous. I want to thank Mandy from Women's Aid and Linda from Living Keys and Vickie, because without them, we wouldn't have got to this point. You try and imagine, even with all my experience in the council of running services, you imagine starting a domestic abuse service from scratch. And every time you think you've got to the bottom of the to-do list, somebody says, have you thought about this? And, so we've had to write risk assessments, we've had to write, all these sort of protocols and policies, and they have been invaluable. And I tell you, I've worked with statutory agencies and voluntary agencies all over the country, and believe me, some of them can be very precious. I have not seen that here. When I've said to Linda or to Mandy, would you mind just sharing your policy on whatever with me, immediately sent back for me to share. So I've been so grateful. And actually, I want to thank all of you. I want to thank the Domestic Abuse Forum, because, when I first started in local government, probably 25, 30 years ago, there was real suspicion about the church and what we would do and why we were doing it and whatever. And I'll be honest, as I came back and I'm like, going to get involved in this again, going to the Domestic Abuse Forum, there's a member of my team started 25 years ago, was a surreal experience, but that's great that legacy continues. But we've been made really welcome, and I just want to thank you all for that. And I hope you have a good day and you find our building welcoming and the people here help.
Oh, I'm a bit shocked. Disappear behind here. Thanks, Vickie. And thank you, Christine. That was really lovely. That film always makes me cry, because I'm so proud of the ladies that have come through our doors and actually living a different life altogether. And they're still coming along and needing that support. But we're there for them, and I'm just so proud of the ladies that took part in that and shared their stories. My name is Linda Huskisson, and I am a founder and CEO of charity of Living Keys. Living Keys became a registered charity on the 21st of June 2021. We're actually celebrating our 4th birthday tomorrow, which is wonderful. We were so delighted to receive an award last year for making a difference in the voluntary sector of Radio Cambridgeshire, and so thankful for the work, our work getting recognised, and for those that put us forward as well. Living Keys provides a safe space for women to come along and get the support that they need to move forward to an abuse-free life. We do this by providing free courses. So we provide the Freedom Programme, which is an 11-week course, and that is nationally known, which clarifies that the abuse received was not the victim's fault, but the fault of the abuser. And also, when we go into new relationships, they can actually recognise the red flags and to prevent themselves from going into further abusive relationships. We also provide the complete domestic abuse recovery toolkit. This is a 12-week CBT-based course providing tools to improve their self-esteem, confidence and self-worth, also providing grounding techniques for when people get triggered, resetting boundaries where once they were sabotaged by the abuser, challenging negative automatic thoughts and finding their true self-worth, and moving on to abuse-free lives. We also facilitate the Hope to Recovery, which is a 6-week course for those who are stuck in the cycle of abuse, and it's all about gaslighting and coercive control. and how to leave safely with a plan. And this is where we get in touch with Women's Aid so they can help them leave quite safely. We provide a drop-in service every Monday. We provide emotional support, arts and crafts, a little bit of pampering as well, mental health and well-being once a month, and also have the privilege of Danielle from Impact come once a month as well, and that's really just to come and help support and bring advice if they need it. We also do a swap shop. We do that twice a year, summer and winter. This is an event that our beneficiaries and others can come along to and swap their unwanted good items for items that that others bring. This is so needed as many of our beneficiaries struggle with finance, being on their own with children, and on the top of that, many abusers will not pay maintenance, and it goes, even if it goes to CSA, they will pack up their jobs because they don't want to pay, or they pay minimal. There are also volunteer opportunities to those who've been through our services to enable them to gain skills and to go back into the workplace. I have an amazing, amazing team with me today, and I'm absolutely proud of each and every one of them. I haven't got them all here, but I've got most of them here. And you know, I'm just so thankful to our ladies. So thank you, ladies. You know who you are. Where am I? Why do I do this? Because I too am a survivor of domestic abuse. Actually, it was violence. My ex-husband was very violent, and I had to run away. I was too scared to call the police, so I simply disappeared. I was homeless for a while, but then eventually ended up in a relationship with a man whom I thought had loved me. He seemed so kind and thoughtful when I first met him. He was so charming, or so I thought. Things changed when I moved in with him. I became his slave, and he also groomed me into prostitution and worked on the streets in Southampton. In 1986, I ran away again. This is the only way I could do, and came to Peterborough to be closer to my family. I'm free now of domestic abuse and have been since 1986. I am now a Christian, and I know the work that I do is my calling. I have such a passion to try and help others overcome situations that they experience. God turns our tragedy into a testimony. I simply want to see women break free from abuse, know their true self-worth, and simply come alongside them and encourage them and pour positivity in them rather than the negative response that they're so used to. We are here for the long haul, and we'll be here as long as our beneficiaries need us. If anybody would like to read my book, I bought a box with me, so if anybody does, they're £6.50. I'll even sign it for you. Okay, so it's here if you want to. Since we became a charity in 2021, we have made some fantastic connections with Vickie, with the IDVA team, with Impact, Women's Aid, Mandy, Rape Crisis, Social Subscribers, Peterborough City Council, including the Housing Department, NHS, Mental Health Team, and more. Many of our referrals actually come from these different organisations, and I'm so pleased that we can work together. We've actually had 514 ladies come through our doors, attending the courses and drop-ins since we started in 2021. I'm so thankful for your referrals, as it really is important to work together for the good of those going through abuse. You would think that in 2025, the figures of domestic abuse would decrease. Instead, we find that it's increased. The Office of National Statistics reported that 1 in 5 adults experience domestic abuse during their lifetime. This equates to 1 in 4 women and 1 in 6 to 7 men. estimated at around 2.3 million people over the age of 16 and over. Nicole Jacobs, a domestic abuse commissioner, had raised concerns about inconsistent support for victims and survivors and had called for an urgent reform. The government had recently announced several policies aimed at enhancing this support, including a pilot of domestic abuse protection notices and domestic abuse protection orders. Responding to the report, the victims the Victims Commissioner for England and Wales, Baroness Newlove, said victims and survivors of domestic abuse must be able to trust our criminal justice system, that it will provide a robust, trauma-informed response that prioritises their safety while holding perpetrators accountable. Domestic abusers will be ordered to stay away from their victims and face tougher restrictions when the launch of new protective orders are in, providing vital protection to victims. For the first time, all types of domestic abuse will be covered, including physical, psychological, stalking and coercive control. And this was on the government's website on the 28th of November last year. I was given some statistics from Vickie as well, and it is reported that there are around 100 women killed a year, and it was reported there has been 1,000 women killed by their partner or ex-partner since 2014. Figures obtained by Peterborough Matters newsletter reports that Cambridgeshire police found more than 2,500 crimes against women and girls were recorded in this district between 2019 and 2023. And they are just the ones that have been reported. Many are too scared to actually report. On Anglian News, I heard the other day, it was reported that there is, in our area alone, 95 women were killed by their partner or ex-partner between 2019 and 2023. So as you can see by some of our figures and statistics that there is much more work to be done to support those going through domestic abuse and violence. We wanted to hold our own survey and asked our own ladies to share their experience and with the services, as they need to be heard as well, because at the end of the day they're the ones that are on the receiving end of it all. Many had reported that they were supported really, really well by many of the services, IDVA, Women's Aid, Impact, Peterborough City Council's Housing Department and Living Keys. Many said that police officers, who are often first point of contact, were very supportive as well. But there were a few officers who listened to the abuser rather than the victim and minimised the incident, resulting in no further action due to lack of evidence of abusers word against the victim. This then empowers the abuser to continue to abuse because he got away with it, and he believes that no one will believe the victim anyway. This also leaves the victim feeling confused, not knowing who to trust. Can she trust anybody at all? Scared of going back to the police again, as it makes the situation worse. They suffer in silence. Some feel suicidal because that's the only way that they feel that they can escape. And some have actually committed suicide and succeeded. And I know how that feels because I was that victim many, many years ago. Others had shared they had restraining orders, protection orders to keep them safe. Some abusers had breached their orders, and when this is reported to the police by the victim, they are told that sometimes they're told there's no evidence or little evidence, so therefore no further action. Again, leaving the victim feeling hopeless and helpless once again. The government have made the policies and they're out now, so why is this still continuing? Some officers who are on the case are reported not to communicate as well with the victim, sometimes turning up at the house of the victim with no prior notice, and banging on the door aggressively, which is a major trigger for victims. One person said that she heard the door banging aggressively, and she ran into her room, hid in her cupboard, in her wardrobe, and she felt small and was absolutely scared. Eventually, she got a call, and it was an officer that was at her door, banging on her door, and said, "Are you okay?" Back in the 80s, there was hardly any support at all. So I'm really, really pleased now that IDFA, Women's Aid, Impact Services, and all the rest of us, all of us, do support victims really well, and many have gone over and above to help them any way they can. Many have benefited from their services. The only criticism that really came up on our survey was that some felt totally cut off at the end of their support with them. One of the ways suggested to improve would be when the support worker advises that they are closing the case as support has come to an end, please let them know what is available to them, whether within their own services or in another's, or give them any details or leaflets so they can look for themselves. Many of our ladies had issues with social services. The main one that struck out and seems to be a problem to many was that social services often change social workers. One lady said that she had 5 different social workers in the space of 2 years. This often triggers those who have been abused, as they feel that they have to explain themselves all over again, and many feel that they are not believed, again feeling that they are being favoured by the abuser, over the abuser, listening to the accusations he gives them about the victim. CAS was reported to often favour the abuser and believe their lies. One lady reports, "I had a fabulous officer with CAS who captured my children's voices perfectly. When the report was completed and my ex read it, he contacted CAS and complained of the contents. So CAS changed the officer, who I felt wasn't clued up on domestic abuse. Myself and my children had to go through everything all over again, which not only triggered myself, but it also upset my children. When it went to court, the CAS officer, who was assigned to the case, saw his true colours in court and apologised to me. But by then, it was just too late." PCC Housing have improved their services, and many do feel that they have been listened to and believed. One lady writes, "I finally plucked up the courage to speak to housing about my domestic abuse situation and what I had been going through. My ex went to prison for an assault and strangulation, and I needed to get away before he got out of prison, as I was scared of what would happen if he was released early. It was a journey and a half, but I do now live in a new home on the outskirts of Peterborough, myself and my children finally free from the abuse. The children are really happy and doing well now at school, a new lease of life, and we feel safe for the first time in a very long time." Another reports, "My housing officer was very supportive and I felt listened to. They even arranged for me to have my locks changed and a ring doorbell with CCTV so I could see who was at my door. I felt safer." We asked them if they were satisfied with the support that they received now, and many said yes. Then we asked them to kind of share any gaps that they felt that needed to be bridged, and here is the feedback. "I believe more organisations and authorities need training and a deeper understanding on domestic abuse, and not just one incident, especially the police, solicitors, CAS and the rest of the court system." Another, "If there is no police involvement, because I was too scared to call them, as being let down before and the abuse got released, the support is minimal, if any at all. Victims need to be able to find a website that has all the services available, and also encouragement to report to the police when it hasn't been a physical abuse but mental. CPS often say that there is not enough evidence, or because you are physically hurt. Because you're not physically hurt, coercive control or stalking is not taken so seriously. And as there is little or no evidence to back it up by the abuser, the abuser goes free. Plea bargaining is not explained properly to victims. We hear of the pros, and that includes them serving time for what they have done, but fail to tell the cons of plea bargaining, which minimises what the abuser has done to us, and our support from frontline staff like IDFA and Women's Aid is then closed as no longer in immediate danger, as abuser is now in prison. And the final one which we recorded was top of the list, which is the length of time it takes for the courts to sort the decision out. As you can see, a lot of our service are doing well, but we still do need improvements. I don't want anyone here today going away feeling that we failed. We haven't. Many of us have done absolutely brilliantly, and you know, with working with domestic abuse. Credit is where credit is due, but let us take time together and look at what can be improved and see what changes can be made together. We are all in this together, so let's work together and continue to make a difference to the lives of those in domestic abuse. If anyone wants to know more about our services, we're just over here. We've got ladies who've got our polo shirts on, to have a chat with them, and together we can make a difference. So thank you everybody for listening, and God bless.
Under their service, I now volunteer for them. I was trapped in a domestic abuse situation for a number of years. To put it in perspective, my youngest son is 13 now, and he was the outcome of rape. I did not get to leave that relationship. I was trapped there until 5 years ago. And now that I'm not there anymore, I'm also still trapped because I wasn't married to him. So my situation requires civil matters and not the police. So I thought recently I got back into my poetry, which I hadn't been doing for quite a lot of years. And I wanted to write something that kind of highlighted the fact that I was never hit. I was never hit by my partner. But I suffered to the point I was suicidal. So just because you are not being physically hurt doesn't mean you are not being hurt. So hopefully this kind of sums up some of the ways which we end up trapped in those situations which are not necessarily physical, and you can see, without being too graphic, how that happens. So this is called Only. He's only a waiter, too slow with his drinks, but he doesn't deserve to be told what he thinks. It's only an eyebrow, finger tap or smile. Not quite right, but you're unsure for a while. It's only a look, or a silence, or a glare. But you question the meaning and whether it's fair. Only one bad day, he's usually so sweet. He buys you big gifts and spoils you a treat. Oh, it's only a joke, just a comment in jest. Don't be so sensitive, that's your new quest. Sexist, racist, homophobic ones too. He'll even make jokes at the expense of you. It's only a niggle at first, you see, until it's regular jokes on me. Questioning friendships, layering doubt. It's only one night, you don't need to go out. Your friends will be fine without you, he'll say. I haven't been able to see you all day. Your job, you're too good for. Why don't you quit? You have been unappreciated there, you admit. Why don't you stay home and have a new baby? We could even get married. Well, maybe. It's only a little, whether drink, fat or food. You should do it for him to lighten the mood. He's insecure, but it's only because of his ex. She took all his money and used him for sex. She only had kids to be spiteful and use, to trap this poor man in her awful abuse. He's only allowed to supervise once a week, while dictating your parenting and how they should speak. It's only one sock on the floor, no big deal. Yet soon it is laundry and cooking each meal. We do all the shopping, yet we can't get it right. Any excuse for him to start a fight. He asked you for ketchup, not mayonnaise. Only this changes again with the passing of days. It's only a plate when his dinner he flings. But drop one while cleaning and you're destroying his things. It's only a thing that got broken, not you. The latest confusion you're working through. It's only a kiss or a grope or a touch. He forgets the condom, won't accept no and such. He's showing he loves you and showing you care when he starts to drive you everywhere. It's only with you that he can go on living. Drink, drugs or stress the excuses he's giving. It's only a child and you're only a woman who should do as he says and come when he summons. It's only your fault, he's done nothing wrong. Though he purposely hides all your things when you're gone, holding you hostage one way or another. You wonder how you turned into his mother. Coercion now normal, he took all control, with each passing day eating more of your soul. It's only emotions and words they will say, while you cover your bruises or he locks you away. He's only one man. If he's that bad, you'd leave. But the reins are so tight that you can't even breathe. You've hidden so long now you're not sure what for. And you've started to flinch at the phone and the door. It was only one time, one punch, one kick. It was only an accident. It will never stick. If he was guilty, you'd not stay and he'd pay. But it's only your word against his, they will say. Finances, children, fear, guilt and shame. I'll tell them, you're crazy, he begins to exclaim. Degraded, dejected, confused and forbidden. They've taken you over and kept it all hidden. Only seen when you're black and blue battered. None of the build-up to it even mattered. You tried to seek help, but you got turned away. Why don't you just leave again, they will say. You can't hold on much longer. You're scared that you blew it, because you have spoke out to someone who hasn't been through it. It's not only a feeling, or only his bird, or only a word. You're not only his mother, or only his bird. First time's a mistake, now you know he's addicted. If only we knew what those red flags predicted. When it starts with small changes, very few will have read, but only one step further, you could wind up dead.
I did say you'd need tissues. Thank you so much, Caris. I read it in the newsletter and I was like, so Linda put this poem out in her newsletter. If no one's on her newsletter, get on her newsletter. And I thought it was really powerful, and I said to Linda, do you think we could read it at the conference? And your bravery to read it yourself is amazing. So another round of applause. So, my next favourite person is Lisa and Delia from Department for Work and Pensions. And the reason they're so important is because finance is a massive issue in leaving. It's also a massive reason that people will go back, because being poor sucks. So, over to Lisa to say what they can do. You're not going to cry, are you?
Probably not. But I'm just like, in all of you, just the words, the powerful words. If I could, I'd love to take that point back into DWP and share, with our colleagues, because just what he was saying, you know, really brings it to life, you know, the trauma that you've been through and others go through as well. So a big thank you to you for doing that. Okay, so yeah, my name is Lisa Barraclough and I've got a very long grand title in the Department of Work and Pensions. It's the Advanced Customer Support Senior Leader. And I've got my wonderful colleague here, Delia Chesney, who leads the Complex Needs team. And you're probably thinking, I've never heard of, an Advanced Customer Support Senior Leader. Have you ever heard of the Customer Experience Directorate either? Probably not. So within the Department of Work and Pensions, I've been in this role now for about 5 years. It is a new role to the department because, as you can imagine, the department has been going for a very, very long time. But what we recognised during the COVID period, that actually we needed to listen to our stakeholders, to our customers, to our third party, to our charities, about the way that we delivered our services. Because I'll be honest, I think in the past we've not listened, we've not adapted, and we've not been flexible with the approach. And hopefully what I'm going to show to you today is that we are now listening, we are learning, and we are being flexible with our approach and changing our policies as we go through. So, improving how we support our most vulnerable customers is a priority for DWP, and it absolutely is. We wouldn't have a Customer Experience Directorate if it wasn't a priority. And that Customer Experience Directorate is probably the only directorate within DWP that is growing. Within DWP, lots of the other directorates are shrinking as to, with resources and finances, but the Customer Experience Directorate is growing. So, what we do is we gather insights. So we speak to Vickie, we'll speak to other key stakeholders here around the table around what's happening. How can DWP improve? What changes do we need to embed as well? Well, we look at what we've already delivered and was that fit for purpose? Because often it's not fit for purpose. But years ago we just said it's not fit for purpose, but that's what it is, and we just need to get on with it. So what we're doing now is looking at what we're doing now, then things that we need to change as well, and delivering support for customers is our number one priority, where it previously would have been, I'll be quite honest, number crunching, performance, MI gathering, data analysis. It's now looking at actually what is our need, what's the need of our customer base, and getting it right for them, because we can always do more, and I think that's what we've recognised, that actually there's more we can do, and we need to be flexible and we need to change. Identifying when somebody needs additional support, because in the past we've probably said, actually that's not our role. Our role within DWP is to put people into work and to pay benefits. It's not. It's around identifying, supporting our community and identifying those individuals who may need additional support from us. Strengthening the capability of our workforce as well. So we've done a massive recruitment, but what we've understood is that learning and development, listening to real stories as well and taking them back into the department so people understand why we're doing what we're doing. Because often people, work coaches may say, I'm asked to deliver whatever it is, but when you talk to them and explain the why behind that, they actually become engaged with it and understand. And be a learning organisation. People have spoken quite openly today around some of the cases we've had, and I get involved in the domestic homicide reviews on behalf of the department, and I feed back into the department any recommendations and learning that comes from them. So we do listen, we do learn, and we do take that forward. And when I say we take it forward, I work at a national level, strategic level, and I feed into our deputy directors and our directors around those changes that need to take place in DWP. So what we have learned is that some of our customers may, at times in their lives, still require additional support. And we have, specialist rules and procedures to provide that. As you said, we've got our DWP visiting service, and some of you may have heard of our visiting service, some of you may not, and this is where we can actually send a visiting officer out into a customer's home to actually gather information, make a claim to benefit, support them with personal independence payment, and that is a service that is available to everybody. We do have key stakeholders who can refer directly into that facility as well, such as the local authority, and other organisations, Age UK, Macmillan directly refer into there. And myself, as an advanced customer support senior leader, I often can see some faces around today who've made referrals into me, and the referrals normally come to me where business as usual that we deem in the department hasn't resolved whatever that issue, inquiry, concern is for that individual, and myself and my team will get involved in that, and I will look at a strategic level. Was it that actually our policies and procedures weren't correct and we need to look at them and amend them? Or actually is it upskilling within the department when we need to go back out into our local job centres, into our service centres, and actually provide more additional support as well. My role is quite different because you probably worked with your local job centres, and you'd be looking at people between the ages of 16 and 67 who access our job centres. My role is across all ages. So it's irrelevant if it's a young child or if it's somebody who's claimed state pension and you've got a concern about that individual, I'm the person who will be able to support. I work across all ages and all departments as well. So I don't just work with universal credit or income support, ESA. I work with retirement services, child maintenance group. I think the lady here spoke about CSA earlier. I have a footprint in each of those benefit lines. We work with HMRC, or national insurance numbers, just every single department, and we provide an insight to that department of what changes need to happen. And we're committed to listening to our customers. So if you feel that you're not receiving, or as a customer or as a third party, as an advocate for somebody, that we don't understand what your needs are, often we get, it's complaints, but actually, if we don't receive that feedback, we're never going to improve the service. So for me, feedback is a gift because, we can see what we need to do to be able to change our services as well. Thank you. So, because DWP understands and recognises that vulnerable customers require additional support at different times in their lives, and that's what has really become quite apparent, that often people will say when they first make a claim to universal credit that they're at the most vulnerable. Actually, that's not the point. The point is that any time in a journey, there may be an impact, there may be a bereavement, there could be domestic abuse, there could be a range of things where somebody needs to reach out to us at that time and access our services or share with us what's happening in their life. And I think that's sometimes where we struggle as a department, is that people are afraid to tell us what's happening. They come into a job centre or they may use the journal, but they're not honest with what's happening. So you've got a work coach or somebody in telephony trying to work out what somebody's trying to articulate to them. We're saying it's about us working together with our communities and supporting our communities the best we can as well. So as you can see, we've got an advanced customer support team now, that network, that customer experience directorate. Within my team, I've got specialist workers who work for me, supporting our communities as well. And there we're looking at that data, so we track cases. So when we're involved in a case, we look closely at why did we get involved in that case? Why did that case get escalated to myself and me to become involved in? And as I've said before, is it through the processes, the policies within DWP that need to be reviewed, or is it through actually upskilling and learning in the organisation that we need to embed as well? Because ultimately what we want to do is provide an exemplar service to whoever accesses our service and actually remove that inconsistency that you might see across the business as well. So delivering support for customers, we provide an additional layer of support for customers, supplying specialist support. So we have disemployment employment advisors, we have partnership managers, we have a whole array of other additional support within the job centres and within DWP that you may not be aware of. And what I will do is send out to Vickie the names of those links for you. We have homeless folks, we have drug and alcohol folks, domestic abuse folks, of course, within our sites as well. But for me, it's about us joining up and working as a community, working with you all around in this room today to ensure that we are aware of those customers who need that additional support. If they're not got a voice that they can voice themselves, or they're afraid to share that, that we've got those advocates who can share that information with us. Because we can't work in silo, and we shouldn't be working in silo as a department, because we're not experts, we're not professionals. You know, we have a level of training around domestic abuse and around vulnerability, but ultimately our role is to signpost and work with those partners as well. So really, the reason we're here today is to increase our visibility, so you know who we are and who you can contact if you have a case that you want to discuss or needs additional support, or actually want to compliment us on, you know, the work that we've done, or actually say actually it didn't work. You know, provide that feedback to us. Okay. Because I think what I see, some of the cases I get involved in, and people reach out to me. Actually, the picture that we've been given by that customer is a very, very different picture to the reality that they're in, because they've not wanted to share, they've not wanted to open up. And I can absolutely understand why, because if you've been into a job centre, you know, the desks are close together, people can listen in, but you absolutely can ask for a private room. You can ask for that within a job centre. A job centre is a safe space for you to disclose domestic abuse, to want to speak to a work coach in peace and quiet, in a private room as well. You know, there's lots of things that we can do to be able to support, you know, individuals as well. You know, joint claims, you know, we support with separating joint claims if you've already got claims to universal credit, or out on bank accounts, because we know around that financial abuse with, you know, our perpetrators holding, you know, the purse strings, you know, and the victim not having access to them. You know, what we're trying to do within the job centres is our work coaches being able to identify those signs and have those conversations. You know, with joint claims, what we've started to do is ask them to come in at different dates and different times as well, so we can speak to individuals on their own without the perpetrator or partner being there, so we can ask those questions. If we've got, you know, actually we've got some signs here that we think this person could be a victim of domestic abuse, let's bring them in on their own. Let's take them into a private room as well, so they're away from people, so nobody else can listen in on that conversation as well. As I said, you know, strengthening the capability of our people. Because I will be honest, you know, when I go out into our job centres, and sometimes I'll ask them about domestic abuse, you know, who do they link into? You know, how do they refer somebody? It's something like, oh, well, we go to the wonderful lady here called Lynn, who is the Spock in the Peterborough job centre. They'll go, just go to Lynn. Lynn knows everything that needs to know. Do you know what I mean? So she's their go-to people. But, you know, what we need to do is that encourage everybody to be the Lynn, that they don't need to go to Lynn, because I'm thinking, Lynn does have leave, we do allow Lynn to take time off. Then what happens when Lynn's not in? Where do they go to? So it is ensuring that everybody within the department has that level of knowledge, skills, confidence and ability as well. So we've recruited into the job centre recently. I think you're fit to bust at the moment, aren't you, Lynn? Yeah, there's not enough desks in the job centre at the moment for all the work coaches we've recruited, so we're doing lots of hybrid working, but you can see that investment is an investment in our community, in, you know, the people who access our services. And what I want is for you all to think of your local job centre as a community hub, as somewhere that you can go to, not somewhere that you fear and think, oh my goodness, I've got my meeting with, you know, with my work coach and I've got to go in. And I'll actually go in and, you know, if you've got questions you want to ask, you know, if you've got things that you want them to address, tell them. You know, they haven't got a crystal ball, and I know I've been there before, and people will tell you little bits. You know, but you know, when we're saying about strengthening the capability of our people, that is about professional curiosity. So right across DWP, from the top of Scotland right down to the bottom, everybody is undergoing professional curiosity training as well. So that's an investment by the department in people being professionally curious. It's not about being nosy, it's about picking up on those subtle signs that somebody might give to you and actually asking those additional questions. And actually, you know, having the same work coach, because, you know, when sometimes somebody will give you an answer to a question and you'll think, okay, next time I'll carry on that conversation and a different answer will come to the same question, and you start to use your professional curiosity to dig a little bit deeper, but in a very, very sensitive way, because what we don't want is our work coaches going like bulldozers and answer really insensitive questions. It's around that sensitive probing of those questions. And in a way, sometimes being led by that customer, by that individual, you know, it's up to them how much they want to share at that time as well. some of you may be aware of the easements we can put in place. If somebody's in receipt of universal credit and they are a victim of domestic abuse and they are in what's known as the intensive regime, because we like to have names and labels, you know, that we can put an easement in place where they don't have to look for work, they don't have to come into the job centre. So actually sharing that information, you know, can make somebody's life an awful lot easier as well. And we can apply easements at any time, and we review and we can extend that period depending what's going on. Because ultimately we want to support, you know, you as an individual, as a family unit, because at that point the priority is you going on that new journey, the new chapter of your life as well. As I said, you know, we've got a lot of new work coaches. In the past, what you might have found is that people would see one person, then somebody else, and somebody else, and somebody else, and somebody else. Actually, that shouldn't be happening now. You should just have a named work coach. And especially if you've declared, you know, that you're a victim of domestic abuse and you've got a vulnerability, what we're aiming to do is keep you with that same person. Because there's nothing worse than having to relive your trauma and tell somebody over and over and over again what's happened to you. We've now got what's called an additional support tab within Universal Credit, and that's where we note down any vulnerabilities, anything that somebody's declared, who the social worker is, who is supporting them, or actually, you know, I can't come into the job centre on a Monday because I go to my support worker. Just making things a little bit easier, because, you know, people have to share that information with us for us to be able to do that as well. So, as I say, we want to be a learning organisation, and we want to learn from when things, you know, haven't gone well. You know, and I'll be honest, things don't always go well within the department. We are a huge organisation, but it's about us making changes and identifying when things haven't gone right, what can we do? How can we, you know, support our most vulnerable customers? And that's once again about that feedback, you know, from DHRs embedding the recommendations, not just locally. So this isn't just locally, this is across DWP. So DHRs are shared right widely in the recommendations across DWP, so they are embedded, and we will review the impact of those changes within the organisation, because there's nothing worse than saying, yes, we've done it, but there's no evaluation after. So, as I said earlier, you know, building a network. So I've got a huge network internally. So this is only part of DWP. So when you probably get in contact with us and you're going, oh my goodness, I don't know which team I'm going through to, I don't know who I'm speaking to, you can see it is massive. There's lots of different strands to it. And often when you may be making a call through to one of our call centres, we've got call centres in Belfast, Ballymena, we've got them in Scotland, we've got them in Wales, Blackpool, all over the place. So you may not be speaking to somebody local either. We do have something called a district provision tool, which is like a big library, online library, that agents can go into. So it doesn't matter where you site in the country. Somebody phoned up and said, you know, I want to disclose I'm a victim of domestic abuse. Where do I go? What's my local organisations? They can go directly into that. It's got a local footprint, and there's local community-based domestic abuse, but also national as well. We've got national organisations placed on there. So as you can see, my footprint, as I said, is far, you know, across, you know, all those. You know, we've got Scottish Government, visiting teams, you know, sit within the multi-agency hub as well, so I sit on the safeguarding adult boards as well and represent the department. So it really is that we want to be within the community and embedded within your community, my community, and actually do what's right by our customers as well. So if you want to know more, because we have actually recently, only very, very recently, because trying to get any governance through DWP is an absolute nightmare. Most of you will work for local authorities and government departments, but we've actually now got a footprint on gov.uk that tells you a little bit more around the advanced customer support and the support, you know, that is provided in the job centres as well. And there's just a little link there about getting extra help and support to manage your benefits or your pensions as well, because, you know, as I said, I do work across retirement services, attendance allowance as well. So I work right across East Anglia, so I work Suffolk, Norfolk and Cambridgeshire. The two ladies here, so Delia and Lynn, are your local links. So there is an email address there. You know, if you've got an inquiry, a concern, something that you want, you know, you're not quite sure, please use that inbox. and Lynn, if she's in, or one of her team will reply to that as well. And if you've got something around strategic, questions, please, email, the East Anglia Complex Needs inbox. One of my team will pick that up and they will share that with me. If I can't resolve it locally, I will take that to a strategic level and say, I've got this concern, I've got this inquiry, can somebody look at it from policy, from legal, and that's how we get those changes made, by actually sharing that insight as well. So if you are making a referral, all we really need is a brief description of what you've got and have you got consent from that individual for you to share that information with us, for us to look at how we can support. Every single referral will be triaged. If it's not come to the right team, we won't just go, it's not the right team, thank you, no thank you. We'll actually send it on to the right team to ensure that you do get that support that's needed as well. And really that's us. I just think often, people don't know what happens in DWP. I think you walk into the job centre, there's just people sat around the desks. Actually, behind the scenes, there's a lot going on. And actually, what we're wanting to do is to make anybody who comes into the job centre or access our services, that journey better for everyone and, positive outcomes. I'm happy to answer any questions if we've got time, or is it time for tea? Time for tea.
Lisa will be around all day, so if you have got questions, if you have got questions, you can always find Lisa or Delia. I love the fact that you've worn something to make you stand out, so you'll know who she is. Find the pink ladies, or Lynn. But thank you ever so much. Come. Right, all settled. Hope you all got a coffee. I bought shortbread from Marks and Spencer's and it's barely been touched. So if you can, reel into that would be marvellous. Not now, in the break. So we've got 3 speakers before lunch. Our first one is Sarah Scase. I've been working with Sarah for some time and Rhea even longer. Oh, we've got a fan. If you can mention Jenny during your presentation, we'd like to get her into as much as we can. Without further ado, I'll introduce Sarah.
Hi everybody and welcome to everybody. There's just a few slides I'm going to take you through today. If anybody has got any interest in housing, which hopefully we all have, it's an integral part of, I'm sure, touches everybody's services. So first off, just because you've all had a coffee and you're ready and raring to go, I'm going to get the fun stuff out of the way, talk about the housing process. Just to try and give you a bit of an overview, we are a statutory service, so we have to abide by legislation. So sometimes that can be very harsh and stark, a little bit sometimes like computer says no. Well, we don't want our service to be like that, even though that's sometimes what the legislation dictates. So, look at that beast right there. Now, although you've had a coffee, I am not expecting you to be able to go through this stage by stage, but I suppose what it does do, and I'm more than happy to send this slide to anybody if they want just some further detail, is it just talks you through a little bit about the different stages that we go to when somebody presents to us as homeless. And you'll see that there's a prevention stage, and we are all about the prevention work, and wherever we can do, we will do absolutely everything in our power to try and prevent homelessness. Where it is safe for somebody to remain in their accommodation, we will support them in whatever way we can do to help them remain. Legislation dictates that we can allow a 56-day for somebody to be in that prevention stage where we work together, we work, the customer works to try and alleviate their homelessness. As we all know, it doesn't always happen like that, and often, unfortunately, people present to us at that relief stage at the point where actually they're homeless that day and they need some support that day. That stage is called the relief stage. And again, that's when we start looking at, okay, does this person need temporary accommodation? What are the thresholds for that temporary accommodation? Because unfortunately, legislation dictates that we aren't able to book everybody into temporary accommodation who presents to us. That relief stage, as I said, is a 56-day period where we're looking at temporary accommodation. We're providing that temporary accommodation if we are able to, and supporting that person to find alternative accommodation. Following that, after that 56 days, we have to make something called the orange box main duty decision, and it is as exciting as it looks. So this is the final kind of part to the housing journey where we have to look at the whole application and we have to think about 5 different things. The 5 tests of homelessness, and you'll be tested on these later today, so listen up. First off, is the person eligible? Are they homeless? Have they got a priority need? So that's talking about vulnerability. Are they intentionally homeless? And do they have a local connection? So that's the thing that we look at right at the end to determine what is the main duty that the local authority has to that person. Now, that's all very well and good, isn't it? But actually, what underpins all this is we need to be providing a service that has empathy and respect to all of our customers, regardless what the legislation says, because we can deliver a negative message to them, but still show a level of empathy and understanding and a want to support. That doesn't cost a penny, and that's something that I strive to ensure all my housing officers deliver. The big red box at the bottom is unfortunately what we abide by, which is what the law says. Now, when it comes to domestic abuse victims who are presenting to us, the law's very clear that we don't need confirmation that the person has experienced domestic abuse from the police. That is not what is needed. We have to come from a place of trust. And if you're supporting somebody who is fleeing domestic abuse and you approach my service and that isn't the situation, please get in contact with me, because I'm more than happy to review a case if that hasn't happened. So there are kind of key things that I expect of my officers. Number 1, first and foremost, empathy and understanding and being able to listen. But also follow the legislation, because the law is very, very clear with victims of domestic abuse who present as homeless. That was the fun bit. Well done. A little bit more fun for you. So just then thinking about kind of accommodation and housing options. Look, I'm not going to stand here. You all know we don't have accommodation, in rivers. I don't have keys in my pockets right now that I can just chuck out to you all, unfortunately. It would be lovely if I did. And so it's really, really difficult because we have so much demand into our service and yet not many housing options available. So I just thought I'd give you a few options on the board here. Some of our key kind of situations is the fact that we are a non-stock holding authority, which sounds kind of loads of just words, but basically what that means is that we don't directly own social housing, so we don't have the keys in our pockets. We're not able to just go, oh yeah, okay, cool, yeah, you need a 3-bed, off you go, there's your 3-bed. So instead what we do is we collaborate with our housing association partners, some of whom are in the room, and advertise available properties on their behalf. As I said, there's a high demand for housing. That number, that 2,800 number, was at the time, that will have undoubtedly risen. Live applications on the housing register, the need is just huge. I mean, you've got the homelessness need over here, then you've got the general housing need. You know, those people who are in a 2-bedroom flat, but actually they can't go up the stairs. You know, they're not homeless, but actually they've got other issues. And that's captured in that housing register. So huge, huge need across the city for housing services. So therefore, when somebody presents to us, we have to consider all housing options that are available. The private rented sector options, and often what we find as a service is there's a little bit of like when we start talking about private rented sector, because people are like, oh, I don't want my client to go into the private rented sector because they're just going to be evicted and it's going to be awful. And well, actually, we've got to change that discourse. We've got to start realising that the private rented sector is and has to be a feasible option for the majority of people who present to us. We advertise a very small handful of properties every single week, and with numbers on the housing register like what you can see, it doesn't take a mathematician to realise that what we've got and the huge demand are just nowhere near each other. So private rented sector options, it's got to be an option for most people who come through our door. and we will support those people into suitable, reasonable, affordable private rented sector solutions as well, helping with deposits, rent in advance, and other ways as well to help access and unlock that as a feasible solution. We support domestic abuse survivors in exploring all housing options, and you know, I think some of the horror stories that I've heard of that have happened previously is that you're presenting to us fleeing domestic abuse, you need to go into refuge, that's your option. Absolutely not. I do not expect that from my service. Refuge is obviously an option for some people, and we've had some amazing domestic abuse training which has taught us that it's often not an option for the majority. It's an option for some people, but it certainly isn't the go-to when somebody presents to us as homeless fleeing domestic abuse. It's not that one option and that's it. We also look at temporary accommodation solutions, measures to enable people to remain in their household if it's safe to do so, you know, the alarms, for example, the ring doorbells, etc. We want to look at all solutions because there are people who present to us fleeing domestic abuse who do want to remain in their homes and they just need that support to remain in their home. And of course, this is you mentioned, Jenny, the referral to the independent domestic violence advocates and the amazing other local support, most of which are in the room. So, well done, Jenny. Boop, boop. Okay, so Daha. So Daha has been a journey for housing needs, and I think people say journey a bit lightly. You know, we throw around journey. Well, it has been a journey for housing needs, believe me. This slide just shows you a little bit of that journey. So what we have done, we are fully committed as a local authority in obtaining Daha accreditation. We really, really want it. But believe me, as some of you probably know, it's just not a tick box exercise. It's a true reflection of you as a service embodying those values, and I as a service manager, I'm fully committed to getting us there, and we will get there, Vickie, we will get there. So some of the things we've had to develop so far is sustainability plans, feedback, for staff procedures, encouragement for staff as well. We're really encouraging our staff to be DA champions. We've got Helen in the room who's like heading up that for us really, and a key kind of advocate of that. And we want our staff to be involved in all the domestic abuse campaigns as well. We are committed to ongoing training. We do DIP checks quite regularly with cases, and we don't just do the DIP check, we make sure that feedback is fed directly into the caseworker, as well as having a whole meeting to discuss the feedback as well. We are really committed as well to delivering a trauma-informed service. So part of that, for example, is about we are looking to develop our face-to-face working space, and the number one key on there is about how is this space going to be trauma-informed. So how is that domestic abuse survivor going to walk through that door and feel, and Jenny's going to be a key part of that for us to support us to make sure that space is right. So it has taken a long time, but we are really, really proud of how far we've come, and we definitely could not have got to where we currently are without all of your support. And that support being, Sarah, I've had this really bad experience, you know, somebody's come into your service and you've said, well, actually they've not reported it to the police. That's support as well, because it's telling me what's going on and it's letting me change things. So I really appreciate every one of you. Looking to the future, pardon? We love good news, and we are slowly starting to realise that actually there are some good news about our service in relation to this sphere as well. I think, yeah, the impact it's made. So we are going to obtain domestic abuse accreditation. Just watch this space. I'd like an invite this time next year, Vickie, and I'm hoping we'll be further. We're really committed in terms of using lived experience. This is our kind of, one of our next things we're going to develop is we want to use that lived experience to continuously improve our service. We want to continue to use the case reviews. They are it's from a service manager point of view, I don't get involved in cases enough anymore, and it's just a brilliant way to actually just reflect on some amazing examples of what staff do. And then, unfortunately, where we've fallen short, and it needs to be addressed. And believe me, it does get addressed, and we work together with our staff to make sure that we move forward in a positive way. We're committed to developing a comprehensive training plan for our staff. We've had Living Keys come in and deliver the most inspiring presentation to our team to make sure that, you know, we ground ourselves and we remember actually what this is all about, and it's about the people, and it just brought it back to us so well. We would love other agencies that would like to come in to talk to our teams in relation to domestic abuse to come in and talk to our team. We want that continuous development. And my last thing, empathy doesn't cost a thing, because as a local authority we're so tied up in the cost of things, the cost of temporary accommodation, the cost of running services. But I'm a really firm believer that actually empathy doesn't cost anything. We can treat everybody with that kindness and respect that everybody deserves. Just a quick one, how you can refer, a self-referral there, or telephone us there as well. That was a quick one. And then questions, I'll be about for you to grab me in the lunch break networking time. Please do come in and say hello if you've got any questions or want to chat anything through. I am fully available today. Thank you.
If ever I think I speak too fast, I have a chat with Sarah and I feel better about that. I love your energy, Sarah. It's been a pleasure to work with you, and it really has changed in the last sort of 6 months. The one person we haven't mentioned, because she'll be mortified as well, is Rhea. Rhea's been behind this when it was really hard. And she's been really one of those key people, and lots of you will have contacted Rhea when you went, my client. And then Rhea's managed to pull something out of the bag to be able to support somehow. So I really do urge you to reach out to Sarah and Rhea, because if they can solve it, they give it a good go. So yeah, it has been a journey, and being able to be part of those audit processes, watching how cross Sarah gets when it's not as good as it should be, it's been a pleasure. It means I don't have to get across. So, next, we've got lovely Rachael from the Cambridgeshire Association. So welcome, Rachael.
Thank you, Vickie. Hello, everyone. It's a really pleasure to be here, and I just want to say I'm so grateful to be stood in such an amazing space with such inspirational speakers today. Honestly touched, so thank you for the invite. So I'm Rachael. I work for Cambridgeshire Deaf Association, and I'm a fluent BSL user, so I'm a qualified BSL interpreter, and 3-4 years ago now I became an IDVA. So the reason is because when we were advocating for deaf clients, we were having a lot of deaf people coming to us and making disclosures because we were a really safe space for them. As Christine mentioned earlier, we were a really regular, consistent service. So the story about the woman waiting outside really resonated with us because a lot of our clients know us. We're very hyper-local, and we have drop-ins all over the county that people can walk into. So a lot of people were starting to make disclosures, and we sort of recognised the need that there wasn't any BSL IDVAs around in the UK. So we set up an IDVA service locally, face-to-face, and we're really pleased at how successful it's been, and amazed at the need that was out there that wasn't previously recognised. So at Cambridgeshire Deaf Association, we don't only have domestic abuse services, but we have everything. So we have advocacy services that can be supporting through really difficult court cases, police issues, Care Act assessments, and everything in between. We have casework, so people might be really struggling with their bills, calling up to making payment plans, and all the barriers that comes with deafness or being hard of hearing. We have an amazing community worker, and we have fantastic befriending coordinators now, including a hearing loss befriender and a deaf befriending coordinator. So we have volunteers that help make our service incredible. In our last quarterly programme, we have a programme of events to give out to the deaf community, and we have over 200 events that people can attend. So we are a massive presence in the deaf community and now in the hearing loss community as well, which we're really proud of. And we are very open to all of our staff being domestically abuse aware and trauma informed, so that if people do make disclosures, they can get in touch with either myself or Emma, who's a qualified IDVA, who's also deaf herself, so she's got the lived experience. We have a number of other services, so we have hearing aid maintenance for anybody struggling to repair their hearing aids, and as well as all the community events that we offer, we have a CDA TV, so it's a live stream and recorded BSL videos that we put all over Facebook and social media and YouTube, so please have a look if you are interested. The aim is to try and increase the information in BSL that is out there. So we have done a few topics around domestic abuse. We've done miscarriage live streams, and anything that's really important that we're getting feedback from the community that they may not know about, we want to be able to put that, we want to be able to fill that gap. And also allow people to know that we are out there. So we have this afternoon actually an episode of our Thrive Live, which is our live stream online, and it's a women's only chat show talking about different issues that women face who are deaf in the deaf community. So I think today they're talking about immigration. And again, it's just having that open space where people feel that they can approach us, they can leave comments or they can access our advocacy service, which is really important to us. So just focusing in on the IDVA stuff, why are we needed? Why are deaf specialist services needed out there? I absolutely love sitting in spaces like this and hearing the fantastic services that are available, and I feel really privileged that we have so many available in Cambridgeshire and Peterborough in lots of different areas and covering lots of different need, which is fantastic. One of the things that our deaf community struggle with is just the communication barrier. So it's about walking in and being able to say to you, I need help. How does a deaf person do that in sign language if none of the support services offer that in BSL? A lot of the services that might offer interpreters, so for example in the police, we know that they can request interpreters, but unfortunately there are 87,000 deaf people in the UK and there are currently 1,700 registered BSL interpreters. So finding interpreters can take 2 weeks, it can take 3 weeks. If you are mentioning that you're supporting with a domestic abuse case, which is ideal if you're booking interpreters, so the interpreter's aware that what they're walking into, there might be even fewer that are comfortable interpreting situations like that or who have the correct training. So it's a real barrier when a victim's ready to disclose, ready to report, and they're being told we may not have an interpreter available this month to make that disclosure. And just giving them that massive wait time of they could be scared out of reporting, they could change their mind themselves, you know, anything could happen in that time. So it's really essential that you've got deaf support services out there. I'm a registered interpreter myself, but what I do try to do is rely on the interpreter network that I'm aware of to try and get relevant and appropriate interpreters in place when needed. So I'm happy to work with any services that are struggling with that, and just to sort of allow those victims to come to us, even if it's just for emotional support, so we can offer that service instantly at a drop-in. They can come to our offices, they can video call us, text us or email us, so we have no wrong door approach in contacting us for service users. And all of our advocates, caseworkers and our other IDVA are all deaf, so they're all lived experience. It's sort of a buy and force service, so the community know that the people they're supported by fully understand the situation they're going through. So I just wanted to share one of the stories from our service users, because I know that that's really, really important, and just highlight a bit of a barrier. So this was a clip from us last year. We worked with ITV News to make sure that this woman's story could be told, and she desperately wanted to tell her story openly. Unfortunately, because there was no police charge in her case, she wasn't allowed to, so she had to be anonymised. But I just wanted to share that with you here so that you can all see her story.
Vital support in sign language. Elodie Harper reports.
Abby, who is deaf, is explaining in sign language how she became trapped in an abusive relationship involving financial coercive control. We're protecting her identity, including her real name, and her words are spoken by Gemma, an interpreter.
He was controlling everything in the house. If I was to go shopping for food, I would have to buy whatever was on his list. I had to follow it. And if I needed something, say for example, nappies for the children, he would only give me a certain amount of money to do all the shopping, so I couldn't sometimes get the nappies that I needed.
Abby got the support she needed from the Cambridgeshire Deaf Association, or CDA, which this week had a visit from the county's Police and Crime Commissioner in acknowledgement of their work.
So it means that there's an even more limited amount of interpreters.
People who are deaf are twice as likely to be victims of domestic abuse as those who are hearing. Many, like Abby, have a hearing partner who exploits the power imbalance.
So what we often find is that partners are relied on to communicate for deaf victims, and therefore they don't have their own voice, they're relying on their partner to speak for them. It's very easy to kind of abuse that power, unfortunately. So if there were professionals, police, social workers showing up at the door, again, if they're not deaf aware and they don't know about booking interpreters, it can be really a struggle for that deaf victim to be able to get their voice heard over the perpetrator who can communicate fluidly with them.
Cambridgeshire is one of only 3 regions in England with specialist provision for deaf victims of domestic abuse. Abby believes this support is vital.
I needed to ask for help due to my situation of domestic abuse. Because I needed someone who was knowledgeable and experienced working with deaf people, knowledgeable of the language, the culture, the deaf community. Because for me, it felt like I could fully express myself in the most natural way about the situation I was in.
The CDA also makes educational videos about abuse, as other media like radio is not always accessible. One of many ways they are trying to make sure everyone can find the help they need. Elodie Harper, ITV News.
Thanks. So Abby is deaf, she's also got cerebral palsy, and as she mentioned in the video, what she found is her perpetrator was hearing, so anytime she attempted to reach out for help, it wasn't accessible, it wasn't private, because when she would go to the doctor, he would be relied upon to communicate for her, and in any other professional spaces as well, including at the children's schools and things like that. So it's a real benefit, I guess, for her to have services that are accessibly fully in sign language. And one of the things that she shared is just how safe she felt when she built a community around herself who also shared that language. And she was able to distance herself from the perpetrator, which was just amazing to sort of support her through that whole journey. And she was really the first client that had ever sort of contacted us for support, and it was back in 2016. And the court only just finished 2 years ago in relation to custody and everything that comes along with it. As you mentioned earlier about Kafkas, one of the interesting things that we found in that case and many others is that you're not only relying on courts booking interpreters, police booking interpreters, but also booking interpreters that can relay your character well enough for a Kafkas officer to judge you. So it's really interesting for me when you see interpreters who don't know the client and they're just relaying words, you're not necessarily getting the emotional impact from that client. You might not understand their character or their tone of voice through an interpreter. So that's just something really to sort of leave with you all if you are ever working with deaf people or with interpreters, just generally. So of all the barriers, I think communication is one of the largest, but one of the things I always notice in these conferences is when we're talking about minority communities as well, the deaf community itself is a real minority community. So culturally, it has a lot of very different aspects and different cultural societal norms than we would assume. And we have to treat it in the same way that any other minority community is supported through domestic abuse. So knowing that if that person is relocated, the ties back to the perpetrator might be actually very close to home. Often we'll have people come to some of our events from different areas and suddenly find someone they went to college with because there's so few deaf colleges out there. So it really is a tight network, and it just means that we have to be available to support completely confidentially, regardless of what we know about that person when they're attending our social events as well. One of the real amazing things that I find about working at CDA is just how much we offer holistically. So I know social prescribing is a very hot topic at the moment, but what we really offer our victims is to build that support network, because we're so aware that when you're feeling isolated, you're more likely to return back to the perpetrator. So we have befriending services where volunteers can support you. We have befriending events, we have community events, we also have volunteering opportunities or employment opportunities. So I truly feel that we sort of surround the victim with a whole supportive community, and part of what we do is to educate the rest of the community so they have a safe network that really understands what they've been through as well. Yes, so just going onto the screen a bit, there's a couple of stats up there, and it was mentioned in the video that Deaf people are twice as likely to experience domestic abuse as the hearing community, and disabled victims are often likely to stay in the abusive relationship much longer as well because of not being able to access support services. So that's one thing we're really trying to tackle, but we're aware that the research isn't out there for me to throw a load of stats at you, and I'm sure you wouldn't want me to. But it's just to really highlight that actually it's really common, even in a small community. In our first year of delivering the INFA service, we supported 13 women, and that was really eye-opening for me because I've worked in the advocacy community, in the deaf community for 5 years, and to know that there were 13 people out there who were going through abuse that we weren't aware of until they started approaching our services was really powerful. One of the services we offer is the Freedom course. So we have worked with Women's Aid to completely adapt the Freedom programme into a BSL delivery system. It's a very, very visual, very hands-on, very engaging room full of deaf women, and again it supports that really tight-knit community network around the women that attend. And it was the outcome of the Freedom programme when people were wanting to leave, they were needing that additional support, which was why we set up our INFA service. I'd just like to say to all the professionals out there as well, our INFA service will support any level of risk, and that's largely because we want to prevent it, we don't want it to escalate, and it's also because we're dealing with quite small numbers in comparison to other services out there, so we want to be able to offer it to as many people that need it as possible. So please don't hesitate if you're supporting a deaf person or a person with hearing loss, and you're thinking, I'm not sure if it will meet the risk, please do refer in. And we're really, really keen to work with other providers, so even if you're supporting clients with various different things, they've got a hearing loss, or you're not sure how to support them to communicate best with them, if they lip read or not, or whether captions might be useful and how you can go about doing that, please don't hesitate to just get in touch. We're more than happy to provide advice or work jointly alongside you all as well. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a no wrong door policy, so give us a call, send me an email, show up to one of our drop-ins, in any way people want to refer, we'll accept it. There's a QR code up there with my details on, or you can copy from the slides. And I'm around all day, so feel free to ask me questions or ping me an email anytime. Thanks.
Everybody, I'm thinking that probably most of you have heard of Changing Futures. We work across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, and we have 4 main areas of work. Today I'm going to talk to you about the co-production area of work. But our 4 main areas are working with people experiencing complex multiple disadvantage, and we're working with people experiencing 5 petals of multiple disadvantage, and that's homelessness or risk of homelessness, people experiencing poor mental health, people that are offending, frequently offending to survive, not complex crimes, but shoplifting or drunken disorderly offences, people experiencing domestic violence, and also people that are using substances that have a hugely detrimental impact to their lives. So we have 4 areas of work. We have the systems work, which is looking at the system as a whole, how the system works, how the system can be worked better to support the people that need it the most. We have the trauma-informed network, which is looking at making sure services are trauma-informed, they're working in a trauma-informed way, and they're understanding people's trauma. We have our coordinators that work as case coordinators, and they work with people experiencing multiple disadvantage in order for them to get the services they need in a trauma-informed way, a person-centred way, and also with a trusted person if they have a trusted person in place. And then we have the co-production work, and that's what I want to speak to you about today. And I've got Nick with me, who's one of our lived experience facilitators. But we have, the co-production work has been going on for about the last 5 years, and our co-production work initially is working with people experiencing multiple disadvantage to understand for them how the system has worked, how it could work better, what things they could change. And then as part of hearing people's voices, we want to really co-produce services right from the very beginning. So actually, services aren't putting out a survey asking people what they could do. Services are saying, what do you need from a service? How should this service work? How can this service work to make sure that you, who needs this service, is actually getting what you need from it? So we have groups running around the county where we're speaking to people, we're finding out what works, what doesn't, what they want to change, and then we're speaking to the people that are running those services, the commissioners, and saying, can we talk to you? Can we get people's voices heard? Can we make these changes that people are asking for? And to echo what Sarah said around the housing, We're working in partnership with Sarah. We're looking at the temporary accommodation options in Peterborough, how they're working for people with lived experience of multiple disadvantage, and how they can work better, what could be done slightly differently for people to have a better experience. And actually in the next month or so, we've got a group where we're going to meet, we're going to get some people with lived experience together to actually really hear what can change to work better. But we've got a really exciting opportunity coming up. And it's up there now. So we've now got funding to get a lived experience facilitator to work solely with survivors of domestic and sexual abuse. So their role will be focused on hearing their voices, hearing what's worked, what doesn't work, what could be done better, what they'd like to change. We're going to be working with people that want to do this. It can be people that are through their journey, it can be people that are still experiencing what's going on their terms, how they want to do it, whether it's part of a group or whether it's individually. And Nick already has this role. He's working with our mainstream people that are experiencing the 5 different multiple disadvantages. So this will be a new role solely for focusing on the domestic side, but Nick can explain a bit about what he does and how important it is.
Yeah, basically I try and get as many people lived experience, try and amplify their voices, get them involved in co-production work across the county. Not everybody likes groups, so I can get out to the people either in the homes or meet them outside somewhere or a coffee shop. They can get involved in co-production via myself, so we can take whatever topic we're working on in the group, take that to them, get their feedback, and they can still participate, in the group sessions remotely if it works better for them. I think this is going to be an ideal opportunity for someone to build bridge that gap between domestic abuse, co-production. It's an area that's often overlooked, and I think it's going to be really good.
Thanks, Nick. So we're around all over the lunch break. If anybody wants to come and talk to me and have any more questions about the job or any services that might want to get involved, that might want to, when we're recruited and have somebody in place, that might want to meet, talk about what they're doing, talk about whether they want to get people lived experience involved, we're around and happy to talk to you all. There's a slide with our contact details if you want to write them down. Sorry, I'm not very good with the slides. I forget that. Yeah. Thank you.
So I am going to speak to you about our amazing group called Women Warriors. We began this group about 2 years ago because we thought there was a huge need in Peterborough for a women-only group, a safe space. So we rented the church on Park Road and we got loads of tables out, crafty activities, tea and coffee, put it all on our socials, put posters up here, there and everywhere. Me and Gina's at the back, there we go Gina. We stood at the doors on Park Road thinking there's going to be a queue. We had 2 people. So we had more staff there than we did clients, but we persevered. And Women Warriors is just one of our massive success stories at Peterborough Women's Aid. So why, was there a need out there to have a women-only support group? And this is open to all women. This isn't just victims of domestic abuse. So we wanted to reduce isolation. And we know now that some of the women that come to our group, it is the only time they leave their home. Now, saying that out loud, you kind of think, whatever, that can't be realistic. But it is. It has become an integral part of our client's life to attend this group. We want women to make friends, and we've had loads of women that have come to the group and then they've left and they've had their own WhatsApp groups and they're still meeting each other. We wanted to work with women that have low self-esteem, which we know women who have been through trauma are likely to kind of lack that confidence. But most importantly, we wanted a safe place, somewhere where women could go, be together and feel completely at ease. So, we work in a trauma-informed way.
at Peterborough Women's Aid, and the way we look and the way we present and our buildings are really, really important to us. And we want women to walk through the door and go, I feel safe, this is lovely. So I'm going to show you a YouTube clip of our Women's Centre. Welcome to Anne's House, a women's centre in Peterborough. This is our lounge.
Bear with.
Welcome to Anne's House, a women's centre in Peterborough. This is our lounge where we can work with clients, and we can do one-to-one work or we can do family work. We've got lots of toys and games, and can put the TV on for children. This is our reception where our clients wait to be seen, and we can also use this as a support room as well. We opened Anne's House in January 2024, and we've had over 1,500 visits from women and professionals. This is our internet cafe, so we normally have laptops on the bench, and it enables women to access the internet to do things like housing applications. And here we have another support area and a library. So carrying on through Anne's House, we have our prayer room. So we have a very diverse community in Peterborough, and we've found that actually not having a space to pray can be a real barrier to accessing support. And then from the prayer room, we have our shop. So this is a free shop for any women or children that come in and they're in need of clothes, toiletries or food. And then as we move further in, this is our conference centre. So this is where we run groups. We run Women Warriors, Arts and Crafts, ESOL groups, and we can also offer this as a training venue to partnership organisations as well. So I hope you've enjoyed the tour of Anne's House, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Discover our lightweight weed trimmer, easy enough for seniors to use one-handed. It's 3 times more efficient than regular trimmers, clearing 10 acres in just one morning. We promise a full
I forgot what I was talking about now, but what was so important to us is that we get the venue right. And we've had so many women that have walked through the door, looked at Anne's House and just immediately felt safe. And the fact that we have obviously our multi-faith room, we have a space for children, so preschool children can come in with their mums, and we have a shop which is it's just free for any woman in need. We have toiletries, clothes, we have all of the stuff. So the venue has really been a key to the success of Women Warriors. So what do we do at Women Warriors? There's literally no agenda sometimes. So sometimes it's Gina with Alexa on, dancing. Quite often, actually. And I think that's key, is that we don't have an agenda. We're not saying to women, come to Anne's House and we're going to talk to you about domestic abuse and being a victim and stuff. Because a lot of clients, they don't want to do that. They just want to come somewhere where they can enjoy each other's company and have a cup of tea. We offer no judgment. We're a trauma-informed organisation. And we offer one-to-one support. So we've had so many clients that have walked through the door and haven't disclosed domestic abuse, but the more they come to us, they start to make these disclosures, and we have the facilities there to be able to take them off for a one-to-one chat. We offer peer support, so we have volunteers who have lived experience, who work on our groups. And then it's the gateway. It's the gateway to all of our other services that we provide at Peterborough Women's Aid. A gateway to our South Asian Specialist Service, our Lithuanian service, our advice line, our young people service. And we find that people that come to Women Warriors then go on and reach out and want further support. So these are some of the things that we do at Women Warriors. So we have, at the bottom we have Wow Fitness. So we have the lovely Sonia who comes and does wellbeing sessions every other week with the women. No pressure, some women don't participate, absolutely fine. We do a lot of arts and crafts, we do therapy, and we always have a summer barbecue with loads of games at Ferry Meadows. And in the last year, we've had 506 visits from women coming to Women Warriors, which, when we stood at the door of Park Road Church and we only had 2, it's completely just blown our mind how successful this is. And 241 visits from children and 103 separate women have come to our group. So this is some quotes from the women that come to us. I'll read quite lengthy, some of them. It's hard to put into words how much this group means to me. There have been weeks during the summer where it's been the only place I've been. Their care, kindness and support has been amazing. I'm sending you this copy in the hope that it might be encouragement to you or someone that might be in need of encouragement. You will never know the impact you've made in my life and my heart in one day, one meeting. I'll always cherish that day, your words, you believe in me, and that special mama bear hug that I have always longed for. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about this client who walked in through our doors on Cromwell Road, and she was crying, she was very upset, she was very anxious, nervous, didn't really know where to turn. And Gina, professional boundaries or not, I don't really care, Gina gave her a massive hug. She gave her a massive hug, and that was exactly what that woman needed, and she is now regularly coming to our group. And then some other feedback. So joining groups here was my first step after being isolated for many years. Everyone here was very kind and empathic, and it was very healing for me to become more confident. With my growing confidence, I began volunteering at the hospital. I felt that I have been able to rejoin people socially. My overall well-being has improved, and I always leave the sessions in a good mood. So some fantastic feedback from our clients that come to Women Warriors, but it's also about shaping the group as to their needs as well. Apparently this is going to play without me doing anything, so this is a voice of one of the clients that's been to Women Warriors.
I have lived experiences of domestic abuse, and I accessed Women's Aid for support 5 years ago. A volunteer role was advertised by Women's Aid, and I decided to apply for the position because I wanted to be able to help in some way to support other survivors and victims of domestic abuse. And because I also felt I wanted to attend myself to build my self-confidence and self-worth. I wanted to be able to give something back to Women's Aid after being the only service who supported me through the most traumatic time of my life. I was very fortunate with being offered the volunteering role, and I have officially been a volunteer now with Women's Aid coming up to a year. My role is to help set up and run Women's Warriors and Women's Warriors with Aprons alongside Gina, and make the ladies who attend feel welcome and comfortable and be a support to them when needed. This role has massively boosted my self-confidence and self-worth, and I share with the ladies attending Women Warriors any strategies that have helped me and still do continue to help me. I encourage the ladies to use art to help with how they may be feeling. To see the ladies so bravely walking into Anne's house and attending Women's Warriors, not knowing what to expect for the first time, to then see their self-confidence and self-worth grow and blossom each week is so amazing to see, and such a joy to see the smiles on their faces. Women's Warriors is such a huge success because of the safe space it provides to the ladies, and a space they grow and blossom with no judgment and complete understanding, which is so detrimental for victims and survivors of domestic abuse. I see the benefit that women's warriors groups bring to each and every lady that attends, and I often have the ladies tell me how much this helps them and how much it means to them to have finally found a place where they can go and feel safe and be themselves alongside others with no judgment, and to be given the opportunity to try to understand why they can sometimes feel the way they do, with guidance and support from women's warriors.
So that was Hayley. She's one of our volunteers. She was a survivor herself, and she came to volunteer at Women Warriors, and she's been with us for quite some time now. So, a successful group. So why is it so successful? We now have in between 20 and 25 women come every single Tuesday to Women Warriors. And it's because we've listened. It's all about co-design. So what do survivors want when they come to Peterborough Women's Aid? So these are some of the feedbacks and the comments that we've had. One lady said to us, we were talking about, okay, how would you encourage people to engage with our services if they've been a victim of abuse? And she said, your posters are rubbish, basically, and they need to be more hard-hitting. You know, there needs to be something there that is screaming out, this is a domestic abuse agency. So we changed our posters. They kept telling us to apply for more funding so we can do more things, which we're constantly doing. Help women to speak English. Really important with the diverse community in Peterborough, and we did that. We now run ESOL classes, women only, at Anne's House. More arts and crafts, and we would like more groups like Women Warriors. So we listened, and here we are. So Women Warriors is now just not on a Tuesday, we now run it on a Friday. It's called Women Warriors with Aprons, because we do a lot of crafty stuff and painting, and again, just as successful as the one that we've done on a Tuesday. So we are literally overjoyed with the engagement from women in Peterborough, and as professionals here, we would love you to refer your women to us, to come to the group. If you want to come to the group with them for their first visit, there's a few people in the room that do that now to make sure they feel comfortable. We would absolutely love to have those referrals. I was going to take questions, but we probably don't have time, but I'm just going to say 3 things, regardless of Women Warriors. Tomorrow, we have one of our biggest fundraising events. We have a charity football match. It is at Peterborough Rugby Club. Doors open at 12:30. We have Peterborough United women players playing at 2 o'clock. We have bouncy castles, food trucks, 15 stalls, face painting, tattoos, everything. £3 to get in. So please, please tell your friends, tell your family. It's all over our Facebook, and we would love as many people to come. It's one of our biggest fundraisers. The next thing I want to say is, Vickie's going to help me now because I'm just trying to fundraise, but the next thing is we have places in the Great Eastern Half Marathon and the 5K. If you can raise 150 quid or 75 quid, we will pay for your space. We're looking at getting 50 runners for PWA. And my last plug is, we have our charity ball on the 1st of November. £55 a ticket, great evening, loads of entertainment, auction, really, really great event. So please follow us on our socials, on Facebook, TikTok, etc. and then you can help us fundraise. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mandy. She's a bit of a dynamite, is Mandy. Yesterday I phoned her up and she went, I went, money, there's money, can you help me write something? She went, yeah, that's fine. So, next up, we've got Mary. Mary Charlesworth is our MARAC, or one of our MARAC coordinators. So, as you may know, MARAC's now just Peterborough, so there's one for Peterborough and one for Cambridgeshire. Mary is one of our great coordinators, and she's going to talk to you more about MARAC.
I'm not actually going to talk to you about MARAC. I'm going to get you to do some work, because I thought you'd had a day of listening to everybody. It's been so interesting learning what everybody does. But actually it's your turn to do some work now, so sorry about that. So, if you can all get a bit of pen and paper, and we did provide some on the way in. We were going to do a Kahoot, but unfortunately it's not going to work. So, there are 11 questions. Some of them are trick questions, just to keep you alive and thinking. This is actually working. I don't know whether. Yeah. I'm not tall. This is the problem. So, to get you going, the first question is: what does MARAC stand for? And can you have 4 to choose from? Do we think it's the first, the second, the third, or the fourth? Read them out. So it's Multi-Agency Risk Assessment Committee. The second choice is Multi-Agency Risk Assessment Conference. The third one is Mandatory Action and Reporting Action Committee. Sounds something like Trump would run. And the fourth one is Mandatory Assessment and Referral Action Council. Which one do we think it is? 1, 2, 3. Anybody who got that one has a mark in the bank. The second one, question. And for the regular users who come, and I know we have a lot of our normal MARAC partners here, and people who occasionally drop in, and we've also got a MARAC chair here, so if she gets this wrong, there's no pressure, Helen. Question 2, on which day of the working week are Peterborough City Council MARACs held? Do we think it's Friday, Wednesday, Saturday or Tuesday? Wednesday? Any votes for Wednesday? Cambridge. It's actually, what's the correct answer? Tuesday. So we'd like to see as many of you there whenever possible. If you don't come, and you don't have to refer it in, we welcome observers at any time. So just let Mandy or I know, or write to the Peterborough IDFAS box, and we will arrange for you to come and observe. And I think most people who come for observing as part of their training invariably find it really useful. It's not scary, honest. Question 3. True or false, MARAC referral can be made without the victim's consent. Is that true? It's a bit of a trick question, this one, because actually it's always better to have the victim's consent, but actually where there is a high risk of serious harm, you don't need the victim's consent. But it's always better to have it. So even if you didn't get the answer right on that one, don't worry, because it didn't really matter. Question 4. Please select which of the following statement is a core... That one. Might help if I press the button. One too many for those. Right, question 4. Please select which of the following statements is a core aim of MARAC. The first one is to provide financial support to victims. The second one is to provide financial support to perpetrators. The third one, to safeguard victims of domestic abuse. And 4, to offer counselling services. Which do we think? 3. That was a pretty unanimous. Everybody's got a mark. Brilliant. Okay, question 5. According to Peterborough operational protocols, what is the recommended threshold for a referral to MARAC based on the DASH risk checklist? So how many ticks does it take to get you to MARAC? We'll see. 5 or more, 20 or more, 10 or more, or 17 or more. And this is the DASH, this is not the DARAs, to be confused. Because DARAs don't have ticks anymore. How many do we think? 17, yeah. Although you can always refer on other categories. More about that later. Question 6. What is the role of an independent domestic violence advocate in a MARAC? First option, to represent the victim's interests. The second one, to investigate the case. C, to manage the perpetrator's behaviour. Or D, or the last one, to conduct the risk assessment They're all of these roles can be found at MARAC, but what is the role of the IDFA? And if an IDFA got that wrong, unfortunately, and this is where I get the plug for Jenny in, because Jenny does present often as a preventing IDFA. I was determined to get that in, to get Jenny in. I've done it. Right, question 7. Which of the following are the 4 categories that can be used to refer to MARAC? First one is visible high risk, poor judgment, repeat or potential escalation. The second one is professional curiosity, professional judgment, potential escalation or repeat. The third option is visible high risk, professional judgment, repeat or potential escalation. And the last option is none of the above. What do we think? Stony silence. Yeah, visible high risk, professional judgment, repeat or potential escalation. They are your 4 categories. So even if you don't have enough, you complete a dash and you haven't got 17 ticks, if you feel there is a good sound rationale or reasoning for referring through to MARAC, we will accept on professional judgment as long as we have a clear rationale for that decision. Question 8. If you are unable to attend MARAC for a case, which is the best course of action? And this is a trick one. First option, let the MARAC coordinator know and she will note it for the case notes. The second option, arrange for a colleague who is familiar with the case to attend to present your risk-led information on your behalf. The third one is to inform the MARAC coordinator that you are unable to attend and send a completed report template with your risk-led information prior to MARAC for the coordinator to present on your behalf. Or the last option is advise the allocated IDFA for the case that you're unable to attend. Helen, put you on the as a MARAC chair, what would you like?
Hopefully number 3.
Perfect. Yeah. So yes, that is that one. However, option 2 is also a really good one as well. So if you ticked either 2 or 3 bullet points, they are really good courses of action. And the advantage, of course, of 2 is that if a colleague attends on your behalf, some of the other information that's shared at MARAC can be shared with you after the meeting. So that's often a very good way, and they will also have access to the case notes relating to risks, etc. Question 9. If you have an issue with dialing in virtually attending a MARAC, who can you contact for support? You can phone a friend. You can email or phone, Teams, message your friendly MARAC coordinator. And we are friendly, we don't bite, honestly. You can get a cuppa. Try calling in on a different device or use your mobile, or you can contact your IT desk. This is a trick one, actually. Perhaps I ought to leave you to make your own minds up what you'd do in that situation, but I'd get a cuppa personally, or I'd contact my son, who's my handy IT expert in the house. But what is the 2 best options is email or MARAC coordinator to explain you're having difficulties, and we do on the Teams invite always have the audio link so you can phone in via your mobile. However, you won't always see what's on the screen, so it's not, whilst it's a better option, it's not ideal. Question 10, you're nearly there. If you are tasked with an action at MARAC, how long do you have to complete it? 7 hours, 72 hours, 7 days or 7 weeks? What do we think? Nobody seems to know this one, Vickie. 7 days, yeah, we do. It's preferred action. if we can get all actions completed within 7 days, it saves Mandy from chasing. Question 11, we're there. How can I mark an action from MARAC as completed? And Rachael, you cannot answer this one. Mark as completed on Oasis MARAC or email the MARAC coordinator who will be happy to do it for you. We can always let Vickie know. Let the allocated IFA know that you have completed your action from MARAC and they will do it for you. Or the final option is wait for the MARAC coordinator to contact you for an update. It's a bit of a trick question because a MARAC coordinator will chase you eventually for any incomplete tasks. We will always come back to you at some point. You can let the allocated IFA know and they may tick it off for you. Not sure whether Vickie would. There's your answer. But the preferred option there is mark as completed on Oasis yourself or get the agency rep on Oasis to do it on your behalf. Or if you can't do that, just email Mandy or I. We will always be happy to do it for you because we realise that actually you are busy people and we want to make your jobs as easy as possible. So that is the quiz. How did everybody get on? 11? 10? 9? What do we think is a good pass mark, Vickie? Have you all learned? There you are, they're happy, Vickie. Thank you. I'm sorry, I got a bit of a difficult one. Thank you. Oh, it's Neil. Neil's getting his steps in today. Thank you so much. And like Mary said, if anyone does want to observe a MARAC, just so you understand it a bit more, if you contact the MARAC coordinators or the Peterborough inbox, they will sort it out. It will always be a Tuesday morning, though. So, earlier I was talking about how part of my job is like linking things together. That's my favourite bit, is you go, oh, you do that, and you do that, and you can do that, and then I can go away and not have to do it. It's how you link all those things together when you're partnership working. It's marvellous. So we have something at Peterborough City Council called Insight, which is our internal, what do you call it? Internal intranet. That's the word, thank you. And then, so one day on the intranet, I noticed that Alex Tyler was the Poet Laureate for Peterborough, which is amazing, and he also works at Peterborough City Council, and I thought, oh, how amazing, we could have him at our conference. So I contacted Alex, and really, really kindly agreed to write something for the conference. So, Alex, come up.
Hello. Thanks for the introduction. That was infinitely better than the one I was going to do. So, yeah, can you hear me okay? Microphones are not designed for the lanky gentlemen, so awesome. But yes, I work for Peterborough City Council, not in, well, big up highway services. I don't work in for humanities, I suppose. I work fixing roads and looking at maps and telling engineers don't dig there, it will kill you. So, yeah, lots of that. But I became Poet Laureate in February, and this is perhaps the most emotionally invested I've been in anything I've been asked to do, because I was asked to, by Vickie very kindly, to write a poem challenging male violence from a male voice, giving a male perspective. And at first I thought, good, I can get good and angry at that, but then I sort of quickly realised that angry men is very much part of the problem. And I don't particularly want to add any more kindling to that fire. So I wrote this because I basically just got reflective and thought, what does this mean to me? What would I say to my fellow men? And given the recent adolescence on Netflix, the rise of the Tate brothers and everything else, I think that men speaking up against male violence is never been more topical and more necessary. So here is my attempt at that, so bear with me. I hope I do credit to everything. Also shout out awesome poetry earlier, that was great. So yeah. I've seen the aftermath of invisible men. The women in my life in tears or worse at the memory of them, memories so solid that it bruises them to this day. For the longest time, I didn't know what to say, and when I first met one, I was surprised to learn that I had known him for years, and then obviously he disappeared. Though I still see him every day, in all the decisions I never made. You are present by your absence, invisible man. A public secret, never said outright in tacit headlines, women attacked, woman raped, woman abused. You're never named, but we know it's you. Squint your eyes, read between the lines at what's implied, because that is where he hides, in plain sight. But don't get me wrong, the invisible man is not always silent, and even his words can be violent. He calls brothers, friends, fathers and sons towards hills of his choosing to die on. Hills made of the promise of cars, women, money, but it's all faux power. Don't believe the hype. Men are more than that tacky stereotype. He reduces everything with value to mere trinkets. He boasts of riches but cheapens us. Men's worst instincts run amok, given form by Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok. What's worse, he chose to be this. And what really stings is that I know what he's feeling. Here I am, having made the right decisions, but I know what it is to feel invisible. I know what it is to feel that rage can give you presence, but it's better to be strong than to be right. But you should just let the devil inside grip your bones and drive. Believe me, I know. But I promise you though, it's better to have a thick skin than a shell. And listen well, anything gained through violence is undeserved and temporary. But if you'd sooner choose invisibility, then we see right through you. You are a two-dimensional monster, and that is all you will ever be. You see, the invisible man is so called because he haunts his peers as well as his survivors. And with his poltergeist personality, there comes a point where the only way for him to be is through violence. And after that, that is all people see. If you go down that road, it doesn't matter that you're a father, successful, rich, swish motor, sense of humour, personality. None of it matters if you chose violence. None of it will outweigh what you have done. All that you are gone. But more than that, your guilt demands an innocent man's explanation, and there will never be an excuse for defending, promoting, or encouraging abuse. All that is left of my violence is so precious I save it for myself, which is not perfect, I know, but it's better than inflicting it on everyone else. I channeled that energy into demonstrating that a real man does not throw his weight around, they carry it, or put it behind them, or better yet, behind people or causes who need it. My father is a steamroller of a man, and he still taught me to walk away. My mother comes from a long line of fierce women, and she reminds me every day that they are so much more than that, they are people. So my brothers, while you are still visible, make choices that give you depth and weight, choices that help you build and grow, choices that keep you here, make you present, make you seen, again and again, choices that make you men. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex. Really appreciate it. I don't think that's the last time we'll hear that poem, really. So, the irony is not lost on me that this presentation is called It Starts With Men. But the person that was going to deliver it is unfortunately unable to be with us today. So I have this. So lots of people in the room have signed up as White Ribbon Ambassadors. So the men sign up as White Ribbon Ambassadors, and the women sign as White Ribbon Champions, to always be alert to male violence against women and girls. And because some of the people couldn't be here today, Vinny did some more work for me. He doesn't just work for us. Apparently he does work for other departments. So we just got a video we want to show you of some of the men that wanted to get their voices out about why they're White Ribbon Champions and why it's important to them. I don't want to copy a stereotype or anything, but I too. we'll have a fiddle, and then maybe we'll get it working later. So, in terms of violence against women and girls, it is my particular bugbear. I hate the fact that there's a vague strategy because it doesn't even name what the problem is. So what it says, it's like having a car crash strategy and not even mentioning drivers of cars. It's like blaming the pedestrians. So I think personally it should be a male violence strategy given the numbers that we've got. And when we look at MARAC, half the men that we have as victims at MARAC, the perpetrator is another man. This is clearly a male violence issue. And so we know that violence against women and girls is rooted in those really harmful masculine norms. We talk, don't we? We said there's 7,000, apparently at any one time there's 7,000 victims of domestic abuse in Peterborough, and we go, oh, that's bad, isn't it? What we never say is there's probably 7,000 perpetrators of domestic abuse in Peterborough at any one time. And for some reason that is much more unpalatable to accept. But actually, they're all around us. And so where we think within the church, like Christine was saying, we've got this many victims, you've probably got the same number of perpetrators as well. But that's too hard. So we don't focus on that. So we do need to address those issues. So Rizwan's here, and I have to thank Rizwan because he's led 4 sessions now for men working in the public sector and more specifically for Peterborough City Council. So it's a men-only session looking at and talking about the issues of male violence against women and girls. They've been really, really powerful. But what we've been really clear is that those sessions aren't women asking men to save them. Those sessions about saying women don't want to be hurt from men and how do they challenge themselves and their associates, peers. So we know that violence against women and girls is a priority, so we've had it from the government. Apparently they're going to halve domestic abuse in 10 years. I may sound slightly sceptical. Also, the College of Policing have talked about a violence epidemic, so violence against women and girls is an epidemic. We've obviously had all the Louise Casey work recently, and the National Police Chiefs Council. So it is on everyone's agenda, but it's really, really important that everybody speaks out and that men are part of this conversation, not just women, because they need to be part of the solution. So we know that our perpetrators, on the whole, are men, from various different bits of data that we've got. So accredited organisations, so Peterborough City Council is an accredited white ribbon organisation, and so what it has to do is look at the strategic leadership, we have to look at changing the culture, to look at awareness raising, and working with men and boys. So we have around 50 ambassadors and champions signed up, although there might be more than that if I ask for the list again. If you are from Peterborough City Council or anyone else, please sign up. If you need one of the little badges, contact me. And so what the ambassadors do is they'll wear that white ribbon with pride to get that message out and try and elevate those messages. Work towards encouraging others to sign up and to talk about the issue. And let's talk about women's violence and violence against women and girls, but let's look at it from the perpetrator angle. Knowing where to signpost for help, so once people are signed up, certainly within the City Council, we'll send them a newsletter every month, we'll get them onto the DA Champions sessions so that they can attend those, so it's really trying to up everybody's knowledge. And using their own platforms to raise that awareness, so actually, some people, not me, but some people love telling everyone what they're doing on LinkedIn, for example, don't they? Their professional networks. Can they do that about male violence and white women campaign? Can they look at their own social media sites? Do they raise it within their own teams? It's all of that sort of work. So it's a commitment not to excuse or commit any violence against women and girls, so challenging sexist behaviours in your workplace or in your own life at home, in your personal life. The important thing is that all these agencies, so like the Mandys and the Jennies, the IDVAs, housing, we're all trying to solve after it's happened. Actually, we're never going to get anywhere with preventing it until we get to the root of that problem. So it's not dismissing any of the amazing work we've heard today. That's important, and it doesn't need to stop anytime soon, unfortunately. but we also need to be looking at those prevention elements as well. And we're all part of that. So what I want you to do is go away and think about what is it that you're going to do to challenge men's violence in your lives, in your work, and with your peers and your friends and family. So we have got further information on our website, but we've got some information down there. If everyone could sign up as either Make the Promise or ambassadors or champions, we've got a QR code. You're not leaving until you do it. But thank you. And that's White Ribbon. And we will get the video. We'll speak to Vinny. We can do it sometime this afternoon. In the meantime, I need to introduce the lovely Peterborough Rape Crisis. And Heather and Steph are going to come and talk to us about their survivor voices and the work that they've done at Peterborough Rape Crisis.
Definitely got to lower the mic. Hi everyone, I'm Heather Birch, I'm the Centre Manager for Peterborough Rape Crisis.
And I'm Steph, Whyman, and I'm the Manager of the Therapeutic Service at Peterborough Rape Crisis.
So I'm going to talk today about survivors' pathways. But first of all, I want to discuss how you actually refer into us. Go to our prccg.org.uk website. There's professional referral buttons and also self-referral buttons. What I would ask, if you're making a professional referral, use that button and put as much information in as you can. What that will enable us to do is stop the survivor from telling their story over and over and over again. No. Okay. Sorry, I need to get back to the presentation. That's just a little bit about why you might need to refer into us. 1 in 4 women, 1 in 6 children, 1 in 18 men. Right, the survivor journey. Here, once you've made that referral, it will come through to our navigating team. That's a team of 3 wonderful women who will then contact that client, work through them with a risk and needs assessment about what their needs are, what do they need right now. Also, on some of those referrals, it might be that they're not ready for therapy. It could be that they're thinking about reporting to the police, that's something else that we can help with. But whatever happens, it's taken at their own pace. It's not our pace, it's their pace. I'm really sorry, but my voice is actually going. Right, from there, the navigators create something called a support plan. And from that, it could be therapeutic, is for services, CHIS for services, and is for services, independent sexual violence advocacy service. The CHISFA is working with children and young people. And then therapeutic service is something that Steph's going to discuss. Is for service. It's independent advice and support for anybody who's currently going through the criminal justice system. So that includes working with the police, who we're a complete pain in the arse to, aren't we, Mo, a lot of the time? We actually have a memorandum of understanding, so we work together with STOs, specially trained officers, and OICs. OIC, that's the officer investigating the case, and that's making sure that all the client's needs are met through that investigation. We can't change an awful lot, we can't change timescales, we can't change the fact with court delays. We also as well can help when the police, NFA cases, victims have a right to review, victims' right to review. Now we will do those right to reviews. And we also as well work with an organisation called Centre for Women's Justice, and they do a lot of our legal frameworking for those letters. And yeah, and we've had some successful, I'm looking at Helen now, We've had some successful NFAs, then turned into prosecutions and actually guilties. And I think one recently was 26 years he was sentenced to. So again, if we hadn't done that victims' rights review, that person would now still be working free. I think also we had to get him back from Pakistan, didn't we? It's a royal we. Our CHIS for service, they work with all ages. 8 and under, they're normally working with the parents. 8 and over, they'll be doing direct client work. And again, they're explaining that everything, or the whole process, in child-friendly terms to them. So this isn't about, it's making it accessible to them, but also as well, they're working with the parents so they fully understand everything outside of that as well. I think it's really important on our self-referrals, we do not accept children's, under 18 self-referrals. And that's for very good reasons. We're talking about rape and sexual assault, and safeguarding has to be the priority. If that hasn't happened, we cannot intervene with any kind of therapeutic support because we're obviously obligated to report, and then we become first disclosures. I think that's it from me. Steph, would you like to do the therapeutic service?
So in the last sort of 3.5 years, things changed a bit with our therapeutic support at Peterborough Rape Crisis. Previously, we provided counselling to survivors. However, due to the cost of those sessions and a huge waiting list, survivors were left with no support for quite some time. So we adopted a model of specialised emotional support, and that is 8 sessions. It is delivered online. We were expecting some fallout from that in terms of not offering the face-to-face support, but the feedback that we've had from survivors has been that they've found it better, it's been more flexible for them to access the support, they've been able to get comfortable in their own environment, and we've still kind of got that face-to-face connection online, so it's working really well. The other positive to that is it's led to us not having waiting lists, so people were being in a position where they were waiting for counselling for 2.5 years, to then being picked up within a week by our emotional support service. We use an underpinning model called SENSE, and that is stabilisation, education, normalisation of emotions and impact of trauma, support and engagement. So that's our underpinning model, but we work in a very person-centred way and design sessions to meet the client's needs. So it's all going to depend on where they're at, what they find their impacts to be, and we're very different to counselling in that we're more direct in making suggestions and offering techniques that might lessen the impact of the trauma. And early on we had some funding from Toyota, and we ran an art group for survivors. This lasted for about 5-6 weeks, and they didn't want that to end. So we did the co-production with the survivors and set up a drop-in group, which happens weekly now. Usually survivors have gone through SENSE, and it provides quite a nice gentle ending, that there's the group there for them that they can come along to. Like Mandy was saying earlier, we found survivors have grown in confidence, they've made friendships, they have their own WhatsApp group too, so lots of positives are drawn out of the group. I think that's it. Therapeutic service.
Yeah.
Referring in is the same, it's on the website, it's self-referrals or professional referrals, and we're about to launch a service for younger people, aged 14 to 16, but that must be professional referrals only. If you want any more information on that, please find me afterwards and we can have a chat.
And I think the other really important thing to mention is that our contact details are on the slides. Are they going out, Vickie, the slides to everybody? Get in contact, there's an 0300 number there, pick up the phone. If it's not myself and Steph answering it, it'll be one of our navigators. If you've got any doubts whether or not I should refer this person or not. I think it's really important that if somebody makes a disclosure to you, that actually to thank them for making the disclosure to them, advise them that there is specialist services are out there, We are funded by the Police Crime Commissioner. This is our only role, is supporting survivors of sexual violence and rape. So yeah, please get in touch. The other thing about co-production is Steph's actually doing an evaluation of Sense at the moment, and we will be going out and evaluating ex-service users and current service users as well to gather that feedback. And then that's something then that comes into Jackie and I, that we then go, right, okay, what do we need to change, what can we tweak, and also as well, what can we actually deliver. Also as well, Steph, you didn't mention about the care packages.
A couple of things that we, by working with survivors, listening to what they wanted, the first thing we did was we had quite a lot of survivors who were really harsh on themselves about their own body image, or they struggled to connect with their body. So we wrote a booklet called Learning to Love Your Body, and it's just a really gentle ease into different things. It's got a bit about consent, nutrition, sleep patterns, and healthy things to kind of about body image really. And it goes out in a pack with things that you can use the book as almost like a self-guided learning tool really, and that it would have like biscuits and a coffee sachet to encourage that sitting down, taking a bit of time for yourself, and then have things like face masks, a very plain lip balm, hand creams, that kind of thing, just to encourage that touch with your own body again and building that confidence. We've also had quite a lot of ladies that have said they've entered into a new relationship and they've struggled with intimacy. So we developed what we then called an intimacy box, which was very similar things, but it would include a small notebook, a nice pen for each partner, for them to write down what felt safe, what felt comfortable, what didn't feel safe, so they could then share it, and that would aid that conversation when they're back in a new relationship and exploring intimacy with their partner again. But all our clients get what we call a care package, and they're designed for them really, and that is using the senses. So it can be used to soothe and stabilise. It might include a sketchbook. We have lots of budding artists who are amazing, so it might be a sketchbook to encourage them to pick up their pencils again. It could be an aromatherapy oil. It could be a motivational quote bracelet, fidget toys. It really just depends on what that person is struggling with, and we send them out a care package. Some feedback we had just last week was we had a male survivor, and he'd made an attempt on his own life. He'd been in hospital. We weren't aware of this. He'd been referred into our service. We've got a slight wait list now at the moment of around 6 weeks. So we're sending out some what we call pre-therapeutic packages to people who are waiting, just so that it tells people that we are here and we are getting to you as soon as we can, and it will have things like breathing exercises, helpline numbers, a leaflet on our service, and a little postcard, motivational postcard. But one thing that we have been putting in, that we found these little positive pickles, and they'll just have a little quote inside, affirming that, you're worthy of our support, or, just a motivational quote. And his feedback was he got home from hospital and our package was there waiting for him. And basically, he cried. He said it was just the best thing to know that somebody was there for me, they were going to be listening. And he carries the positive pickle round in his wallet with him all the time. He's asked for another one because he said it's getting hairy.
Explain what a positive pickle is.
It's just it's like a little card in the shape of a gherkin, and they're called positive pickles, and inside they've got just a positive affirmation. And he's been using that to keep himself going, and he's now having the support from us. So it's just little things like that sometimes that can make a real difference. But the care packages are always really well received, and people do use them for techniques ongoing. So.
Yeah, I think the care packages have been invaluable, and I'd just like to say, because Jackie's not here today, that's our CEO of Peterborough Rape Crisis, but when I first asked for an allocation for a budget for these care packages, and she goes, what, for TAT? And I turned around and said, no, they won't be TAT. And now they are actually written into our budgets. because they have the feedback from them. And for the first time, a lot of the people that we're sending these care packages out to is that they're being valued. That actually them taking 10 minutes out of their day, running a bath, taking a little bit of self-care matters, and it will help. So yeah, thanks to Steph and her team for developing them, because it really has grown from £200 worth of tact, hasn't it? Really important to mention about outcomes and evaluations is that satisfaction actually is that that's constantly under review. That's not just a once a year thing that we're doing as a management team. That's every week, sometimes daily. It was something that happened yesterday, right, we'll change a process, because that's how quickly we can change a process. So that's also fine. And then service development. And what I'd like to say is that we welcome any feedback, positive, negative, in between, whatever. We welcome that. So yeah, and I suppose my hope for the future for Peterborough is that we run the ISFA team, we've got the IDFA team, we've got Linda's team, but actually I'm concerned about the people who don't have somebody helping them. What about those people? Are they getting the right service? And I want to make it so that when they present, like at housing or for another service, that actually, or the doctors, that actually they're not giving them something extra because they know that IDFA or that ISFA. They're giving them that because that's the standard of service that these clients deserve. So, thank you.
Sorry. Thank you. Well, to start with, I just want to say thank you for this, because it's all of the speakers and everything we've learned today has been absolutely invaluable. And hearing directly from individuals that have suffered through domestic abuse and serious sexual violence is the most core part of our job in the police, and understanding how we can move forward and how we can get better at everything that we're doing. So thank you very much for everything. Right. So, obviously, listening to survivors' voices is central to us in the police in order to make sure that we are shaping our trauma-informed approach to policing. And I think, listening to the feedback that's come out of some of the earlier sessions, it's clear that still we are not a perfect policing service in terms of domestic abuse and serious sexual violence. There is always areas that we can improve, but the one thing I would like to say is that we are absolutely committed to doing that. And there's a lot of things that we are doing and have done over the last couple of years, but definitely moving in the direction of now to try and get that moving forward a little bit more, because listening to our victims and survivors is the most important thing that we can do in order to build trust and confidence, and obviously reduce trauma. So, I'm just going to talk a little bit about a project that we ran a couple of years ago, and then move that forward to where we are now and some of the things that we're working on at the moment. So, back in 2022 through to 2023, we ran a project through the OPCC with an external company as well, obviously us as the police, and also Rape Crisis, who are hugely important. And thank you, Heather, for your input earlier. The relationship we have with both IDFA Service and Rape Crisis and the ISFAs is really good, and it is absolutely right that we have that kind of relationship where we can challenge and speak out where we think that performance has dropped, or we think there are issues and things that we can learn from, because if we don't have that kind of relationship, then we don't get better. And that's the most important thing for us, to be able to listen to the feedback. So I welcome Heather's critique, which she's very good at doing. No. Right, no problem. So the project that we ran basically was a series of interviews that took place with survivors that were willing to and happy to engage with us at points from the beginning of an investigation through ultimately to outcome. And it focused in on
making sure that we were following a trauma-informed policing ethos, that we mapped the victim experience across that justice process, and also that we were picking up on any improvement and training that we needed to identify during the course of that trial. And what that project identified was that generally the initial police response was good in terms of the police officers that would attend and dealt with those incidents being respectful, sensitive and supportive. The support services played a huge role, and again it's doing projects like this where it's helped us adapt how we work specifically within the rape investigation team in Cambridgeshire and the child abuse investigation teams, about really pushing with the officers how important using our partners and their expertise is, and that actually there is a lot that we could ask of our partners to do that will help us during the course of our criminal investigations for the victim, and that using partners to do that might be better than police officers in some of the conversations. So it's again reinforcing those key partnerships. We learnt about how our communication is at points inconsistent during the course of an investigation, and how that can obviously cause anxiety for our victims, and clearly not something that we wanted to continue with. And again, when we have victims coming in for interviews, for video interviews with the police, there were some issues around our communication, around organising an interview and then having to cancel it at short notice is unfortunately something that would happen, and as much as I'd love to say it doesn't happen anymore, we are trying very hard to ensure that our communication is better in explaining where our resources are and why certain things can't happen. And also one of the areas that we clearly needed to work on was around how we communicated our decision making when it came to not being able to take further action in some of our cases. So some of the things that we heard from survivors through these interviews that happened at the key stages of the investigation were about officers not fully understanding the impact of trauma and the different responses that would cause victims to have, and those who are suffering from serious sexual violence, how contact from the police can be a re-traumatising process as and when it happens, and that lack of understanding of it. So as a result of that feedback, we then have rolled out trauma-informed training across the force to ensure that officers are better understanding of the experiences of a victim, and ensure that they communicate effectively in how, and think very carefully about how and when they might make contact with the victim, and the kind of things that they're saying, the language that they're using. And that's still happening, that rollout of the training is still going on. We heard from victims and survivors around our Achieving Best Evidence interviews, which is where an individual will provide their evidence in a sexual abuse and domestic abuse case largely, and issues with our interview rooms, the lack of provisions within them, lack of sort of basic comfort that was there. And again, with the help of the ISVA service, we completed a review with the ISVAs in order to help us understand what do we need to make that better. And so by doing that, we've managed to make sure that there were the right supplies in those rooms, and obviously understanding that we have vulnerable individuals that are coming in for interviews that could be children through to adults, and so making sure that it was an environment that was as most comforting as it possibly can be. And again, it's just important that throughout the course of our feedback, it was important that we absorbed it and then did something with it, because there's no point in obtaining feedback if we're not going to move forward and work with that. So we understand how important it was. We've improved our updates to victims, the clarity of those updates. We have strengthened our relationships with our partners, and we'll talk about it in a bit more depth in a moment, but that involves a revitalised memorandum of understanding between the police and the Elizabeth Service. We've also updated our process of how we inform victims where we can't take a case forward, and really emboldened officers to, if they don't understand the sort of the investigation they've got in front of them, that there's a clear pathway that they can come forward and who are the people that they need to speak to in order to provide that better service for victims. So some of the work that we're doing at the moment in force is predominantly in relation to rape and serious sexual violence, but it also massively impacts into all aspects of VORG, and specifically DA, which is a national operating model that's come into force, Operation Soteria, which is the government and College of Policing response effectively to the end-to-end rape review that took place in 2021, where we knew we needed to improve. Nationally, Soteria has come in as a performance improvement plan for all forces, and that's what we're now introducing in Cambridgeshire. And one of the most key aspects of Soteria is having a victim-centred approach to our investigations. The 3 principles are victim-centred, suspect-focused and context-led. And in everything we do, understanding that the victim is at the heart of our investigations, and that runs through all vulnerability, is the most important aspect, and really thinking about procedural justice, about treating victims with fairness and dignity, and ensuring we listen to what they want. Because often people will call us, we're grateful if they do call us, because we understand that it's a huge point when a victim does come forward to report domestic abuse or serious sexual violence, and it could have taken years for them to get to that point. And so it's really now trying to focus in on officers' attitudes and behaviours, and trying to get rid of any pre-existing myths and stereotypes that might exist within our officers around how we move forward and ensure that we give the best possible service. And so having that context-led and victim-centred approach to everything we do is the starting point for that. So we're rolling out training to all officers on that subject, which includes a trauma-informed focus as well. So that's going into our response officers, our control room officers, so the people that victims would speak to first, getting the updated training through to the investigators who would manage the investigations. Again, I think picking up on some of the commentary earlier on around feedback in terms of victim experiences, is that that view that the police perhaps believe a perpetrator more than we might do a victim. And that is from a point of understanding that that's clearly a position that we have been in for a lot of years, and that's where I am passionate, and the people that I work with are, to make that significant change. And so we are better training officers to enable them to realise that the victim is the person we need to put at the centre, and the suspect is the person we need to be questioning, not the behaviours of the victim, not what they've said or what they've done. We need to be looking at the actions of the perpetrator and building our case around that. And when we bring in to any kind of rape or serious sexual offence, it's vital that we consider everything. The coercive control and behaviour that we've spoken about and heard about earlier is key to that, because understanding how a perpetrator goes about their business of grooming and maintaining that grooming throughout a process of a relationship, and also grooming the police, because we can be groomed. When we are interviewing, officers are interviewing perpetrators, often they come across as the nicest of people. And we're also interviewing at a very early point in an investigation where we might not have a proper victim interview account. So we're going on very limited victim information, and then we meet the perpetrator, and they come across as a really nice guy. And they will use that opportunity, because that's what they are experts in grooming, to try and orchestrate a narrative of that investigation at a very, very early stage, so that the officer in charge goes down a path and has that nibbling view in their head of maybe there's more to this, maybe the victim isn't saying exactly what has happened. So all of our training and everything we're doing now under Operation Soteria, which bleeds into everything to do with domestic abuse, is to hammer home to officers that is what we will expect a domestic perpetrator and a serious sexual violence perpetrator to do. So be armed with the fact they're going to do it and build our investigative strategies to be able to rebuff it, and do not make early decisions on what you think may or may not have happened before you've even given a victim an opportunity to tell you. And if we just make that change, I think that's when, and I'm confident in saying we are making that change, that brings us to a position that we will put the victim at the centre of our investigations and what they have to say as the most important thing. And that's where we're going to start to see more and more success when we take cases to the CPS, which are one word against another, which are incredibly difficult in both DA and sexual violence cases to be able to get through a criminal justice process, but they are not impossible. And it's through being challenged through our partners in the Info Service and Rape Crisis and the ISFAs that we will put more and more cases through, which will encourage officers to do that, and it will also encourage our partners in the CPS to make those bold decisions where they need to. And it's through doing that we will start effecting change right at the end, which is in the judiciary, with what happens at court, with what juries will make decisions on and what we see in the press. So, and all that starts by us listening effectively to what our victims are telling us and giving victims time to do it, and not having preconceived ideas about, well, it happened 6 months ago, so why are they now telling us today? And putting some kind of a weakness attached to that. By applying trauma-informed practice to that, we absolutely understand why they're now reporting it to us, and we're using that as a strength in the case because they have, as opposed to saying it was a weakness in the first place. So there is a huge amount of work that we're doing to try and get us into a much better place. And obviously, I think the biggest thing for me is we know that investigations within this area are incredibly challenging to get the right outcomes. But I think what's more important for me actually than an outcome at the end of it is the way in which we've run that investigation and the journey that we've gone through with our victims, and if they would have the confidence to either report again or to speak to someone they know to encourage them to report again. That's, for me, what success looks like, not necessarily the outcome of a particular case. And so that's part of everything we're doing by being able to listen more effectively to what our victims have to say. I think that's about it.
Thank you so much, Helen. That's really helpful. So, last but not least, so as some of you know, that Cambridgeshire and Peterborough recently decoupled, and we have the domestic abuse team within Peterborough City Council. And Clair has kindly taken us under her wing, so we're now her problem. But we try not to cause too much of a grief for her. Claire's also responsible for community safety across Peterborough. It's really, really important that it's amazing that we do all this work after something's happened, but let's have a look at what can we do for people out and about in Peterborough of how to add in some extra protections. And that's what Claire's going to come and talk to us about. Thank you, Clair.
So thanks everybody, thanks Vickie. Pleased that you've joined us. So, and I know myself, I've got a lot to learn, lots of faces in here that I'll be reaching out to me as we go forward. So while I'm here today is I'm just going to talk about our CCTV service. So a small control room, operated 7 days a week, 24 hours, 365 days a year. So since 2021, the CCTV service has played a central role in supporting the Peterborough Safer Streets initiatives, contributing significantly to crime prevention, reassurance, public protection, particularly within the city nighttime economy in relation to violence against women and girls.
As you'll see, Aaron should have been presenting this today. You know CCTV much better than I do. So, the key contributions of CCTV, it's live proactive monitoring of cities' key evening and nighttime areas, including Broadway, Bridge Street and Cathedral Square. It's giving real-time coordination with police, licensed premises. We've got something else called CityLink, so the nighttime economy, the different premises are speaking to each other. If something's happening in one bar or they're noticing someone, they can inform CCTV or other premises. They're also coordinating with ambassadors, out-of-hours service, and they prevent escalation. So if they're monitoring someone and they can see it, they can contact the police to try and prevent that harm and disorder from happening. They're also trained to rapid incident identification and evidence gathering, including criminal offences, antisocial behaviour and safeguarding concerns. So in that CCTV control room, there is just banks of screens. They're monitoring, they're looking for the different behaviours, so they can get that response from either the police or any other officers nearby. And they're also providing direct input into police-led operations, local intelligence sharing, reinforcing, early intervention and offender tracking. So, impact in practice. Since 23-24, CCTV has supported over 2,890 live incidents, contributing to more than 1,000 arrests, many linked to violence, drugs and public protection cases. Operators have also supported the safeguarding of high-risk missing persons, vulnerable individuals and intoxicated members of the public, particularly women and girls. So that's just CCTV, they're there, they're monitoring. But the reason I'm here today is I just want to talk to you about a couple of case studies of the impact that this team have had. So, a recent case study is RV Fox. This incident happened in July 2022. CCTV operators had all been trained, for training, and sort of told to sort of behaviours and that to look out for. One of the operators observed some concerning behaviour from an individual. So started to monitor him and continued to monitor him. They then alerted the police and was providing real-time updates on this individual's whereabouts, his actions, and they continued to track him as he moved through the city. They captured crucial evidence through their live monitoring, resulted in the detention, conviction of a predatory rapist. They secured a unanimous guilty verdict for the rape in June 2024. That one case, I think, highlights how important CCTV is in our city centre. And by training our operators to recognise these behaviours, they can get the police there and they can follow them around. Only last week, it came to my attention, CCTV monitoring the city centre, they picked up an individual that was following a young female through the city centre, touching her, around her, and he alerted then our city centre officers and the police. He continued to follow them up to Asda Rivergate car park. Because they had the link with our officers, city centre enforcement officers, they were able to go to this incident, stayed with the female, tried to get her to talk, to explain, are you all right? And she, said, I don't want this is inappropriate. Followed her, the police come, and we really believe that them just picking up on that last week, again, prevented another serious assault from happening. So, in conclusion, CCTV remains essential. It's often unseen. And it is part of Peterborough's community safety approach. The role in supporting the Safer Streets programme, reducing the risk of and protecting the public within the nighttime economy is vital. These efforts are strengthened through ongoing collaboration with the police, local authority teams and community stakeholders. And also through the Safer Streets funding, we've been able to put in more temporary cameras in known hotspots, and also it paid for a lot more additional monitoring. So in the evenings where we was probably single crewed in that room, we was able to put more operators in there so they could keep watch, look for more incidents, and we will continue to do so. So that was a real whistle-stop tour of CCTV. The manager was supposed to be here today, and he would have done it so much better. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. One of the things that we're going to be doing at Peterborough City Council is looking at the Business Against Abuse, so working with our licensing premises, with our taxi ranks, with our transport providers, but also our city centre officers, to put as much work in as possible and to train a lot of people. And we're going to do that in conjunction with Rape Crisis and the police. So that's really exciting. Maybe I'll put that on the agenda for next year, because once today's over, I'm already booking next year. So if anyone wants to speak next year, let me know. If anyone's got a venue. I think. Who'd have thought June in England would have been this nice? Can't predict these things. Anyway, just to round up really, thank you so much. Thank you to all the survivors that we've heard from today, but also on the videos. Thank you to Vinny, who's always on hand to go, Vinny, I've got an idea. Vinny, can we do this? He's like, yeah, all right then. So expect more. Vinny will be making clips of this conference, so if you want us to share that with you, we can. He's also going to record Alex and Caris and their poetry so that we can share that wider than this conference. Thank you to the amazing work that everyone does supporting survivors. You all work tremendously hard and you try and do your best for those survivors. Thank you to all the other agencies that might not directly support survivors in terms of their domestic abuse or sexual violence, but you're part of their puzzle. So our housing providers, our mental health colleagues, our housing staff at the City Council. Thank you to everybody for coming today, for caring, because unless we all care, nothing's going to really change, is it? I really hope you've had a lovely day. Sorry we couldn't get you lunch. But you had a lolly, it's fine. But thank you so much for today. We really tried to keep it relatively light-hearted, and that's not because we don't know what a serious subject this is, but frankly, you do not want the seriousness for a whole day, it would be too much. So we are finishing slightly early, and I hope you don't feel short-changed by that. But have a lovely, lovely weekend. If there's any feedback, just email me. If there's anything our team can do to help, email me. You've all got my email address because I send you all invites. But thank you so much. We couldn't tackle this issue without you all. So give yourselves a round of applause. If you've got any rubbish, can you please put it in the bin? If there's any rubbish that isn't yours that's near you, can you put that in the bin? Just so that we can, because the biggest thank you really should be to the church for giving us the venue. So thank you, they've been amazing. Thank you to Neil, thank you to Christine, and all the volunteers that came to help and really made a difference. So, oh, Joe's got his hand up.
Big thank you to Vickie as well.
Thank you, Joe. You're free to leave if you pick your rubbish up.